Cornell, step
car. While Albert was driving, his new fiancée, Sharitha Cornell, smashed into it, but she denies it.
Order, all rise. Quiet, please. Your Honor, it's number 147 on the calendar in the matter of Smith versus Cornell. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, sir.
Are you Albert?
Ma'am.
Didn't you know you were coming to court today?
Yes, ma'am.
So what are you wearing shorts for?
I thought it was, I'm saying it was gonna be nice.
Albert over here, the one in the shorts, is the father of your daughter.
Yes.
And you're engaged to him now.
Right.
According to your complaint, you want to stand on that side?
Mm-hmm.
Shh.
Order.
Tell me what happened when you borrowed her car.
I bought a car, then I had a Cornell car in the front of her car.
You parked her car in front of her car.
Right. Then I had
Yes.
just put her car in reverse and backed up into her car.
Just a minute.
Why you
Shut.
lying?
Miss Smith. Miss Smith. Into my adding Albert here as a co-defendant in your...
Versus Edwards. Step forward, please.
17-year-old supermarket clerk, no.
Well, yeah.
No.
We were friends. Yes, we were.
Shh.
Order.
Accepting a gift, you did the wrong thing. Right?
I don't think so, not really. I mean,
Gift. And a 17-year-old who you know has a crush on you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge.
Yes. It's,
140-70. Got it? Good. Thank you. That's all.
Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
she was
I did
trying to
not
buy me.
ask
She
him
should
to
have
go
went and
out
got
with
a
me.
prostitute.
No,
if
I
she
did
wanted
not.
all that, she could have got
Excuse
herself
me?
a prostitute. If I buy you the shoes, will you go out with me?
I did
That's
not
what you said.
say
That's
that.
What, they put this kind of effort into a Stairmaster,
did
they would be
not.
fine. Kind of effort into a Stairmaster,
did
they would be
not.
fine.
'19-year-old Danielle Gage is suing her ex-boyfriend, 25-year-old John Cowie, for several unpaid loans and for the cost to move after they broke up.
How old are you, Miss Gage?
19.
How old are you, Mr. Cowie?
25.
Miss Gage, it is your claim that you made a couple of loans to Mr. Cowie while you were dating.
Correct.
How old were you when you met him?
When I met him, I was 17.
When's your birthday?
In May,
And how old were you, Mr. Cowie, when you met?
23.
Were you working?
Yes, sir. Or ma'am, sorry.
What were you doing?
I was a manager at a Subway restaurant.
What are you doing?
I'm a pharmacy tech.
Do you claim you made your first loan to Mr. Cowie?
The first loan was made in September of '06, but he had paid that back to me. The second loan came in February of '07.
What was the second loan for?
I was informed by the defendant that his tires had been slashed at work and he had no transportation to get to work. And we talked about it. He said that he would give me the money when his first paycheck came in after the loan had occurred.
Why didn't he pay for his own tires?
Because he said he didn't have any money. He had just paid rent and car insurance and a payment on a car.
Where were you living at the time?
I was in my own apartment in Boise.
So you had rent too?
I did.
And you had a car payment?
My car's fully paid off.
Had insurance?
I did have insurance, yes.
So?
Okay, at the time my tires were slashed, was a little stressed, was up to my eyeballs in debt, trying to figure out how I was going to cover it. She met us, me and a friend of mine, at a local bar. We were trying to discuss how we were going to solve the problem. And
Well, it's your problem.
yeah, yes, ma'am. She showed up. We were actually in a relatively serious point in our relationship, looking at the potential of moving in together, even getting married. And she says, don't worry about it. We'll solve it. Here you go. Let's go get the tires.
And what did you say?
I felt about 2 inches tall, taking money from a girlfriend.
So if you felt 2 inches tall, you probably said to her, I'll pay you back.
No, ma'am.
Oh, yes, you did. Because if what you said was, I felt about 2 inches tall because I was really stressed, then you would have said to her, if you were talking serious and marriage to her, you wouldn't want her to think that you were just a bloodsucker. You would have wanted her to think you were a person of character, so you would have said, as soon as I can, I'll pay you back.
We were at a point in our
And you
relationship.
had paid her back another loan.
Yes, ma'am, earlier in the relationship. We were at a point in the relationship where we were looking at the potential of even joining bank accounts.
Yeah, but you were smart enough not to do that with her.
Yeah,
Or she
things
was
fell
smart
apart
enough not to
shortly
do that
after.
with you.
I would say it was probably a mutual road. Yes, ma'am.
Good. So how much were your tires?
$400.
That you owe her. Did you pay her back?
No, I didn't.
What else?
I just wanted to point out that the only time I've ever been in a bar with the defendant is when we went to play pool, and it was not of hours of drinking. When he told me that the tires were slashed, it was in a text message, and I was at school. I also would like to point out that we have never talked about joining bank accounts. Never. Good. I actually have a check that my bank returned to me. He claims that he did not pay for that $400. He paid me a check on the 6/28/07 of $200 that went through my bank account, and then within the week was withdrawn because there was a stop payment put on the check.
What was this for, Mr. Cowie?
To shut her up. I was getting constant phone calls berating, vindictive ex-girlfriend, you owe me money, you owe me money.
So you gave her a check and then you stopped payment on it?
I realized I didn't have the money in the account to cover the check, so I stopped the payment on it.
Okay. What else does he owe you money for?
I took a withdrawal out at an ATM machine for $20 so him and his buddy Russell could go
Who
to
cares?
fishing. I also have moving expenses that I would like to sue for.
What kind of moving expenses?
Even though I was not living with the defendant, I was living relatively close to the defendant. With my past history and all of the emotion and anger, and when a guy gets angry, I get very scared. I specifically told him, don't come around, I don't want to see you.
Put your hand down.
And
Miss Gage, listen to me. That part of your claim is not actionable. What you're really saying is you have a history, and based on your history, you reacted to whatever angry messages he was leaving, so you moved. That is not actionable. But certainly the money that he owes you for the tires is actionable.
He was making sure that he was playing upon the fact that she had been abused.
I don't have to go into that. It's absolutely not necessary. Sit down. That part of her claim is not actionable. She doesn't have to discuss it with me. The fact that she chose to move because they were living too close to each other for her comfort is probably a smart thing, but she had to make it within her comfort zone, which she did based upon her history, which is not his problem. You ever get a restraining order against him?
I did not.
Good. He owes you for the tires, $400. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Thank you.
Laura Howlett is suing her ex-boyfriend, William Lloyd, for a loan to pay his taxes. William claims the money was actually a gift.
How old are you, Mr. Lloyd?
38.
What kind of work do you do?
I drive a truck.
How long have you been doing that for a living?
7 years.
Before that, what did you do?
Mechanic, auto mechanic.
Always make a living?
Yes, ma'am.
You have any family?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you have?
2 sons,
How old are they?
18 and 16.
Have you supported them over the years?
Yes, ma'am.
They don't live with you.
No, ma'am.
Pay your taxes?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, this particular occasion, you owe the IRS some money,
Yes, ma'am.
which means at some point you didn't pay all the taxes you were supposed to pay.
Somehow, during my W-2s, my dependents got messed up. That's why I owe taxes.
Well, your dependents didn't get messed up. You've always had only 2 sons, right? They weren't messed up.
No, ma'am. Talk about on the regular taxes you filled at the beginning of the year. I had more dependents on it than what I should have. That's why I owe taxes.
Well, when you had more dependents, where did you get them from?
Ma'am, I only have 2 children.
Right. So how could you have more dependents?
I filled out the paper wrong for my taxes.
Fine. And whose problem was that?
That was mine.
And whose mistake was that?
That was mine.
Whose bad was that?
That was my bad.
Now, Miss Howlett, this is your case.
Yes,
this
sir.
used to be your boyfriend.
Yes.
And he had this debt to the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
You paid the debt, according to the IRS, for him.
I did.
And you want him to pay you back. And Mr. Lloyd says it was very nice of you to pay that debt, but it was a gift. You took that upon yourself, and he has no intention of paying you back.
Not at all. No.
So, how long did you know him before you paid this debt?
We started dating in May 2006, and I paid the debt August 24th, 06.
You a working lady?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a dispatcher.
Trucks?
Yes, for a petroleum company.
Is that the trucking company he works for?
No.
No, ma'am.
Mm-mm.
Sorry.
Do you ever watch this program?
I do.
When you watch this program and you see women standing in the position that you're in,
I know.
and you say to yourself, how could they be so stupid? What did they see in him? Why would they want to take their hard-earned money and give it to that piece of nothing? I would never do anything so stupid. Didn't you say that to yourself?
I did, and I'd say it to myself now, about myself.
So tell me how it came about.
We started dating May '06. We got serious pretty quick. I discussed with him moving in with me when his lease was up September 15th.
Okay.
Yes. He kept getting the bill from the IRS that he had made a payment plan.
He made a payment plan with the IRS?
With the IRS, yes.
What was your payment plan with the IRS?
$100 a month.
That sounds great, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened?
I was making $100 payments a month.
And were you living together at the time?
By the second payment, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Sorry.
And she saw you making this $100 payment.
Yes, ma'am. When I would go over to her house, I would give her $100 cash.
So you would give her $100 in cash?
Yes, ma'am. And then she would pay it over the computer. Just simpler than send it by.
To the IRS?
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
good. Go ahead.
And then the third payment, of which we're here for now, for I don't know why, she was on a computer, and I asked her if she would make my payment for me. And she said, yeah, when she got done what she was doing. And so I was sitting on the couch watching TV, so I said, I'll be up there in a few minutes, and I'll give you the money. So I watched TV, and I went upstairs and gave her the $100. And I don't know exactly what she verbatim, but she had paid it off, my whole entire balance that I owed the IRS. I never asked her to, I never begged her to, I never even brought it up.
Good. So you had the $100 in your hand.
Yes, ma'am.
What did you do with the $100?
I gave her the $100.
Did she take it?
I believe so.
Oh, so she paid the $21.97 to the IRS, and you gave her $100, which she accepted because you were paying her instead of paying the IRS.
Right, for my $100 payments.
Right. Keep going.
After I gave her the $100, I assumed that she made a $100 payment, just like she had done for me before.
Right.
And then turned around and she had paid it off.
So?
I never asked her to, I never...
No. And what happened the next month? Did you give her $100 next month?
No, ma'am.
Did she ask you for it?
That month, I believe I had moved out by that time.
Oh, did you try to give her the $100?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
Because I didn't...
You gave her the $100 the month before when she had paid off the whole thing, and she took it?
I gave her the $100 before I knew that she had paid off
Yeah,
in
but
full.
sir, then you understood, because she accepted the $100, that instead of her going on her computer every month to pay the IRS, she paid it off, and you would pay her back the $100 a month.
No, ma'am. I paid her $100, assuming that she was making a $100 payment for me.
But she accepted it. Didn't you hear me?
Yes. But I had made the payment after the fact she had told me she had paid it off. If I asked her to pay it off, why would I set up a payment plan with her when I already had it with the IRS? You understand what I'm saying?
Mr. Lloyd.
Yes, ma'am.
Who screwed up with the IRS?
Most of the people at the IRS.
No. Who screwed up with the people at the IRS? I'm talking to you. Who screwed up with the IRS? Say, I did, Your Honor.
As far as making these payments?
Who screwed up with the IRS? And
I did, Your Honor.
That's right. And who owed the IRS money?
I did at the time.
And who was it that spent the money that they didn't pay in taxes that they should have? Who would that be?
That would be me.
Pay your own taxes.
Yes, ma'am.
You do a crime, you pay your own penalty. You owe the IRS money. There are certain things that are positive in this life, sir. One is death.
And taxes.
And taxes. Everybody has to pay them. What kind of pain is there if somebody else pays your taxes? Do not answer me, sir. If you get away without paying your taxes, sir, by saying, well, she paid it off, so I don't have to pay the IRS back $100 a month until they're all paid off, what lesson does that teach you? What lesson does that teach you?
That you shouldn't let nobody else try to do a favor for you and pay your own bills. I never asked her to do this.
Are you paying careful attention to me, Mr.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Lloyd? You don't ask somebody to do your prison time for you, and you don't ask somebody else to pay your taxes for you. And if they do so because you had a payment plan with the IRS, and somebody says, look, I'm going to be a nice person, instead of us going through this drill every month, you give me the $100, which she took, clearly, when she paid off the whole bill, in anticipation of every month you paying her $100. Instead, you moved out. You owe her $2,097 because you paid the $100. Goodbye. Listen to me. Watch better next time.
I will. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Lee Ikuzi says former friend Dean Pottle assaulted him. Dean claims he was only protecting himself.
Ms. Ikuzi, it is your claim that the defendant assaulted you. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Before we get started, my pronoun is he. I made that clear. My name is Lee, and my pronoun is he. And
I didn't see that. I have Lisa.
Yeah, also known as Lee Ikuzi.
Okay.
I'm a trans.
It is your claim that the defendant assaulted you, Mr. Ikuzi, and the defendant says that quite the contrary, it was you who assaulted him. How do you know each other?
I met Dean Pottle when I was the Portland International Hostel manager, and I was in charge of the facilities at the time, and I also lived there. Dean came to my residence at the hostel looking for work. He was actually homeless at the time, and I took him in.
All right, so that's how you met him.
Yep.
When did this alleged assault take place?
April 2nd, 2005.
Tell me the circumstances, please.
I had a business transaction with Dean Pottle that failed. He was supposed to do a plumbing job for me in exchange for me mowing a lawn for him. I also had $1,000 with the oil paintings in his house that we were going to exchange for him to do plumbing services. I went over to his house 2 times. Both times I brought my witness, and on the second time I was assaulted.
Tell me how you were assaulted.
I brought my friend Buddy. There was a driveway that separated Buddy, Dean, and myself. I was leaning back on the car that was separated about 4 feet of driveway to Dean's house. Dean was arguing with Buddy. I told Dean that I was going to tell everybody that he's bisexual, and he ran 2 big full steps. Pushed his arm, swung me around into the car.
Just a minute, you went very quickly.
Yes.
You said you ran 2 steps?
No, I was leaning against the car here, and there was Dean's house.
Just a second. First you threatened to tell people that he was a bisexual?
Right, because he harassed me.
How was he harassing you when you came to his house?
I was at his house to collect money and my oil paintings.
I didn't hear how he was harassing you.
He harassed me 3 days before, and I was still upset about the incident. And
How did he harass you 3 days before?
I was at his house. I was massaging his hands. He went into the bathroom to take off his shirt to massage his shoulders. He came out butt naked and asked me to play with his...
So then why would you go back to his house?
Well, I brought a witness with me because I had $1,000 worth of paintings that
Did you get your paintings?
The second time that I arrived at the defendant's house, I did get my paintings.
Then what I'm asking you is, why did you have any exchange with him at all if you had your paintings?
On the day, within the hour of the assault, at the beginning of the assault, I came in, brought a friend, asked him to go get my paintings, which I needed.
So we went and got your paintings?
Right. While I was getting my paintings, Dean came outside.
Just a second. Your paintings are in the car? If all 3 of you were there...
Paintings are in the car.
So now they're in the car.
Right.
Why aren't you in the car leaving?
Because he owes me more money. He owes me money.
Untrue.
He owes money from doing a plumbing job that he refuses to pay me. So I'm asking for my money. He refuses to pay me.
Put your hand down, please.
He refuses to pay me. And we have a verbal exchange. We've been friends for 7 years. I was really upset at what he did to me. I'm going through this transition. I felt he was taking advantage of me.
Keep going.
And words were exchanged. He walked 2 steps up to me and pushed me into a car. I swung back and got him off me. And
when you swung back, you hit him.
Well, he was on top of me. He was on top of me. He pushed me into a car, and he was on top of me.
How was he on top of you?
I have fingerprints. He pushed me like this, and he was on top of me right here when he pushed me. I leaned back, and I hit him.
I only defended myself.
Let me hear what happened, sir.
Well, when I followed him out with the paintings, and the car was out on the street, and I stood back at my driveway, probably 20 feet away from the car. When he went toward the car to put the paintings in the street, she came out of the vehicle and came toward me. Now, she was nowhere near a vehicle. Now, she came toward me very aggressively and yelling profanities and everything else, so I instinctively put my hand out to defend myself. And when she came close to me, I went like this and said, "Get out of Portland," because I felt she didn't belong in our environment there. And I turned to look at him, and he says, "Oh, you touched her first." And when I looked back, she went, bam, like this, right against my lip here. And I staggered back, yelled at me, and that's when she left.
First of all, sit up. Second of all, don't speak until I speak to you. Okay. Do you have a photograph of your injury?
No, I don't.
Do you have a photograph of your injury?
I have documentation of medical records.
I'd like to see it, please. Now you can step up, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Tell me your name.
My name is Buddy Bercu,
Spell your last name.
B-E-R-C-U. It's Romanian.
Left hand, left arm,
Kind of
Bruce.
difficult the first time. Anyways.
All right, now I ask questions.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
I ask questions.
Please.
The paintings are in the car.
Okay, the paintings are in the car. I come back. He comes out, and the car is parked right by the driveway.
Who's in the car?
No one's in the car. They're both arguing with each other, and I'm like, okay, let them vent a little bit and get some of this out, you know, because
Just a second.
I
Where
don't want to
were they
intervene.
as you were putting the paint? I'm speaking. You're not paying attention
When
to
they
me.
were putting the paintings were already in the car, you said.
Listen to me.
Okay,
Listen. Try
I'm trying.
putting on your listening ears.
I will.
You're putting the paintings in the car,
That's correct.
and he's letting you take the paintings.
That's correct.
Now, the last of the paintings is in the car, right?
That's correct.
Why didn't you both get in the car and leave?
Because, Your Honor, this isn't about that. It's about the disrespect and the way that the abuse had gone down in the first place, and he had not
You're
said
talking
he was
about
sorry.
this incident 3 days before that Lee has just described to me.
Apparently, Lee hadn't worked through the whole incident yet, Your Honor.
Then he, was angry.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Got it. See how easy it is to get to the truth?
Can I give you some more truth, or do you want?
Can I get to the truth?
Be quiet.
Absolutely. Can you give me some more bald facts, sir?
Yes, sir.
I
Yes, ma'am.
determine what the truth is.
I understand that.
You understand?
You're the judge.
Okay. So far we have somebody who wanted their paintings, made 3 trips, got the paintings, but according to you and your Lee's witness, Lee wasn't finished being angry about something that happened 3 days before and wanted an apology.
That's correct, Your Honor.
I got
And then what happened was he said, instead of, I have a restraining order on you, or get out of my property, he said, get out of Portland, which I thought was a little bit wide of a swath for his powers. I mean, Portland's a big
Yes.
place. Then he approached, what he did was he just said, basically, get out of Portland, get out of Portland. And the third get out of Portland, he rushed like he was doing a shot put. And just the whole body, everything came through, but not upward, but straight, like a thrust, and hit. And I could see that she grimaced in pain, and she was crying out. And then what happened simply is a counterattack just to save face. Because I would imagine transitioning to become a man, you have to prove to other men you're a man. So that's why I stayed away from this up until this point. I didn't feel there was any danger up to that point where I had to intervene. I got some heat for that. Say, well, I should have just kicked his, I wasn't going to do that. So anyway, I don't think violence solves anything. And at any rate, what happened was he said, you can't hit me. Or you can't hit me, I'll kill you, or something. I don't remember what it was exactly. Something to that effect. Just was really surprised that Lee would counterattack. And then I just stepped in and said, look, you hit Lee first. And just kind of diffused him.
Did you see his bloody lip?
No, he had no bloody lip. There was no. It was the hand. She was like, like this, because it was not a closed fist. And I never use a fist because you could not close it.
I might ask interested whether you use a fist.
But
or
I'm
not.
just saying, you can hurt
I'm
your
not
hand.
interested. Shh, I'm not interested whether you use a fist or not. It's not
Yes, ma'am.
particularly relevant here.
I want you to stop. You're going to be making it for yourself. I want you to stop.
Shh.
I apologize.
You're killing me.
When was the first time that you were prescribed Vicodin?
I've had an ongoing neck and condition.
Right, I see
since-
that. So you had all kinds of problems that you were prescribed Vicodin for and all kinds of other pain medication.
Right.
Listen, you both behaved badly. You're not supposed to hit her. She's not supposed to come onto your property aggressively, which is exactly what she did. You're not supposed to push her. You're not supposed to punch him. It's over. Finished. Who has an order of protection? Either one of you?
I'm going to get one from both of them.
Well, that's a very, very good idea, sir.
Thank you.
And do me a favor, get one for me, too. That's all. Thank you. Case is dismissed.
Parties are excused.
Rhonda Vito is suing the mother of her son's friend, Anna Betancourt, for the cost to fix a dirt bike. Rhonda claims Anna's son, 17-year-old Sean, rode her son's bike without permission and wrecked it.
Miss Vito, which of these 2 young men is your son?
Anthony, the first one.
How old are you, Anthony?
16.
How tall are you?
6'1".
What do you feed him?
Pasta.
Pasta. Which one of these two young men is
Sean.
am I going to grill today?
Sean.
Ms. Betancourt, and this is your son, whose name is Sean?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Vito, it is your complaint that Ms. Betancourt's son drove your son's dirt bike without permission, got into an accident, and damaged the bike. You believe Mrs. Betancourt should be responsible for fixing the bike. Ms. Betancourt said that her son did have permission to ride the bike, that he was injured, that you're just lucky she's not suing you for the injuries because he broke an ankle. Is that right?
Yeah.
And your son gave her son permission to ride the bike, so that's it. Shouldn't be here. Anthony.
Yes.
Anthony, when were you riding the bike when it was running? What date was the last date before this incident? You have to look down at a piece of paper?
No.
What date?
May 8th.
And where were you on May 8th?
We were at a track in Brockton, riding.
And is it a track where they just have dirt bikes?
Yes.
Who was there?
Myself, Nick.
You have to speak up. You hear I'm speaking? I'm projecting. You can hear me, right?
Myself, Nick, and Dennis.
Dennis, that would be you.
Yes, Your Honor.
But Sean wasn't there.
No.
This was after school, or there was no school on that day?
It was after school.
What time?
About like 3:30 to 5:30.
Okay. Now, you're going to tell me what happened.
Myself, Nick, and Dennis were riding. My bike wasn't working right, so we drove it to my other friend's house. I tried fixing it, but it didn't work, and Sean asked to ride it.
Okay, now Sean was at your other friend's house?
Yes.
They were just hanging out?
Yes.
So far, are we correct, Sean?
Yes.
So up to this point, our stories are in sync, right? Sean asked if he could ride the bike.
Yes, and me and Nick said no, and I was putting the tools away, and he got on the bike and with no helmet and just left.
Why did you say no?
Because the bike wasn't working properly.
Is that the reason you left the track?
Yes.
Did you have a bike with you that day?
No, Your Honor.
Did you have a bike with you that day?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you had your own bike?
Yes.
He's petrified. All right, so he got on the bike without a helmet and took off. Go ahead.
About 5 minutes after I saw him, I tried waving him over, and he kept going.
Well, what was he going around in a circle?
Yeah, like he went around the block. I saw him, I waved him over. He didn't come over. And about 10 minutes later, he came back with a broken ankle.
By the way, state of Massachusetts, are you required to ride with a helmet?
Yes.
You're also 16, Sean?
17.
17? So you're older than he is?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I start eating more pasta.
I don't like pasta.
Okay, let me hear your version. You're at your friend's house. He comes by with his bike. Go ahead.
He came by with his bike. They were fixing it. Dennis rode the bike.
Talk back. Came by, and they were fixing it.
Yes.
Were you outside when they were fixing it?
No, I shut up there. I got out after they were done fixing it, and I came out and...
Well, how did you know they were fixing it?
Because they told me that after.
After what?
I crashed.
After the crash?
Yeah.
Not before?
No.
So you showed up after they had been fooling around with the bike?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then Dennis was riding it, and then when he stopped riding it, I asked if I could ride it. He said no. I asked him again. He said no, and then I just hopped on the bike and rode it. Because I rode it again, so I didn't really think it was a big deal.
Did you tell that to your mother?
No.
No, ma'am.
He didn't tell that to you?
No, ma'am.
He had an epiphany here. Right?
Yeah.
Sean, you had an epiphany here, right? You know what that word means? Change of heart. He had an enlightenment. So this is the first time your mother's hearing that he said, no, you can't ride the bike. Now, do you think that if your mother knew that you didn't have permission to ride this bike, that we would be here today? You stole the bike, right? If you ask the owner of a bike, a car, something, can I use your vehicle? And they say, no, you can't. You say, oh, I'm going to use it anyway. Go get rid of your tools. While you're getting rid of your tools, I'll get on the bike and ride it. Sean, what do you have to say for yourself?
I don't know.
Miss Betancourt, you changed your mind? Your son rode the bike without permission. He actually stole it. He was told he couldn't drive it. You think he's responsible for the damage he caused?
But, Your Honor, I also have medical bills that my insurance is not covering.
Well, let me ask you this question, Miss Betancourt. Let's say your son was walking down the street on his way home, and he saw a red Corvette convertible. And he got into the car, because the keys were there, got into the car, and he took off with the car. And he crashed it, and he got hurt. You think that the owner of that car would be responsible for your medical bills?
No, but also what I didn't finish is that what they're charging me, they're also charging me for part that was fixed that had nothing to do with the accident. And Dennis is the one who took the bike to the shop. And some of the chains and the stuff was worn out during all the periods that they were riding the bikes. So it had nothing to do with the accident.
Well, how much do you believe you are responsible for of the bills that they had?
If we take that out, it would be $355.78.
How much did it cost you to fix the bike?
$631.10.
But the bike wasn't working before he got on the bike properly.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
So it was going to have to go in to be fixed, because the reason you didn't want him to ride the bike is because it wasn't working properly.
Yes.
So at least part of that $631 that it cost you to fix the bike was as a result of wear and tear on the bike, or something that had absolutely no relation to the accident. So what has to do with the accident, Anthony?
I don't know.
Well, if you don't know, she knows. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $355.78. Good. Truth will out. Aren't you glad I didn't have to call on you?
No.
That's all. Thank you.
Christine Clark says her former friend, Breon Hawkins, owes for a loan, damage to her home, and a false arrest.
Ms. Clark, the defendant was a friend of yours who you allowed to move into your home, and it is your claim that you made a loan to him to put it as a down payment on a car of $1,000. Things turned sour in the home and you wanted him to leave. You claimed that he damaged your property by breaking down the door and the door frame. And in addition, you claimed that he had you falsely arrested. Mr. Hawkins says that there was no loan. He says that you tried to lock him out of the apartment, which is why he damaged the door. And as far as the false arrest charge is concerned, he says that you and Mr. Hawkins, as well as your boyfriend, were arrested that day. When did he move in with you and why?
He moved in with me in September of 2008. At the time, he was living with his best friend's parents, and he basically told me that he needed to move out of the home and he had nowhere to go.
How did you know him?
I met him through a mutual friend of ours.
How long ago?
In June 2008.
Why would you let him move into your house?
We befriended each other. We started hanging out. He seemed like a really nice guy at the time, a really sincere, sweet guy. And out the kindness of my heart, I allowed him to stay at my home. He slept on my couch.
Odd.
Right.
Now tell me about this $1,000 that you gave him.
In April of 2009, he approached me and asked me if he can borrow $1,000 from me because he needed a car. At the moment, I didn't actually give him the money, but 2 weeks in, I actually ended up giving him money. I have paperwork here that I went to the bank and I withdrew $1,000 out of my account.
Just a second. Tell me why you gave him the money after 2 weeks.
He needed a car. He needed another car. The car that he had was breaking down. He didn't want to pay for it to get serviced, and he needed to get back and forth to work.
Where was he working?
He was working at St. John Hospital in Santa Monica.
Doing what?
A lift associate for the lift team. So it's not like it's not like I just
What were you
gave him-
doing?
I'm a lift team member. I lift and turn patients.
Still working there?
Yes.
So you needed a car to get back and forth to work?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I have the documents here and saying that I did.
He doesn't deny that you gave him
Okay.
$1,000. He just says there was no expectation of being
We had
repaid.
a agreement that he promised to pay me back $300 a month for the next 4 months, and the payments were going to start actually on May 17th, the actual day that he came to my home and damaged my home. That was the day that the first payment was supposed to be started. No such payment was received at that moment.
Okay, let's deal with the car.
Okay, where do you want me to start?
You needed a car.
I needed a car, which is true. She did give me the $1,000, but it wasn't for me to pay her back. It was.
Your Honor, that's a lie.
If you interrupt again, and I do this, if you interrupt him again, I'm dismissing your case. Do you understand?
Yes.
I gave you an opportunity to speak. Now it's his turn. Got it?
Yes.
Tell me the circumstances, sir. Tell me what you said to her, what she said to you. That's what I want to hear.
First, I asked, can I borrow $1,000?
Okay, can I, just a second, can I borrow $1,000?
Yes.
Okay.
And she
said?
She was reluctant to give it to me because she was like, I don't think you're going to pay me back. And I said, okay, I'll pay you back. She was like, let's write a contract. She didn't write the contract out. So then 2 weeks passed, and then she offered, like, sex.
No, don't tell me offered like. I want you to tell me what she said, Mr. Hawkins.
Basically, I give you the $1,000 and we continue to have sex with each other.
Okay.
And I did it. I had sex with her before, so I don't see would it be a difference to not have sex and do it this time. I haven't been having sex with her since December.
Very
This is
nice.
now April, and like she had tried to come on to me, and I like
Yeah.
reject her.
Are you asking me?
No, I'm just saying. Like, I reject her.
You rejected, you stayed on the couch.
Yes.
You owe her $1,000, Mr. Hawkins. Very good. All right, quiet.
excuse me?
That's what you said. Can I borrow $1,000? And she said, I'm reluctant. You said, I'll pay you back. And you said, I'm reluctant. And then 2 weeks later, she gave you the money. Now, let's hear what happened on May 17th.
Okay, on May 17th, I approached him for the first payment of the money. He basically got on my face and told me that he wasn't going to give me anything. He didn't owe me any type of money. I was on the phone at the time.
You want to lose? Fast?
I was on the phone at the time with another friend of mine, and a friend of mine heard the commotion going on.
Don't tell me what the friend heard.
I went to pick up the friend because at this point I was afraid for my life. I picked up the friend, and we came back to my apartment. I sat outside, and I called the police. I have phone records here that I showed that I called.
For?
Because he was threatening me at that point, the reason why I left.
Just a second. You left.
I left.
He was threatening you. Tell me what he was saying to you. That
he runs this ish, and he was gonna hit me, and if he can't, by law, he lives there now. I can't do anything to get him out.
That's
He's
not a
not going
threat.
anywhere. He was gonna hit me and vandalize my car.
No, I don't believe he said that.
Oh, he did.
No, I don't believe he said that. I believe that he said he's not moving anywhere because he lives there now. And then you left. You left and you came back with a friend.
Right, and I said,
what did you say when you came back with a friend?
Nothing. We sat outside the car, and I called the police at that point. I sat outside and I called the police because I needed him out of my apartment at that point because he threatened to hit me. That's the reason I left.
Let me explain something to you. I don't believe that. I don't believe that he threatened to hit you. But you called the police and you tried to get him out of the apartment. Just answer my question.
Right, yes.
Police came and they must have told you that...
He fled the scene.
Just a second. Did the police tell you that he was a tenant in your apartment?
Yes.
And that you couldn't get him out?
Right.
So what did you do?
I went inside. Actually, before I went inside, he came with the young lady that he's brought to court now. After he fled the scene, he came back with the young lady in the car, and I told the police at that point.
Well, he fled. Did you flee the apartment?
I fled to get help.
Fled.
I was afraid for my life at that point,
Then
Judge.
you should have fled
I
and
was
gone
really
to the...
afraid.
Miss Clark, don't play. If you fled and were afraid for your life, you go to the police station. You don't go pick up a friend. That's what you do if you are afraid for your life. You don't come back with somebody who's not in authority.
Okay.
Okay? So let's not play with each other. There are things that I believe and there are things that I don't believe.
Okay.
Right? Because it's based on common sense and my years on this earth. Now, he left and then he came back with this young lady.
Yes.
And what happened?
At that point, when I was still talking to police, I told the police that he came back with the young lady. They did nothing about it.
Right, because they said he's allowed to be there, because he's a tenant.
They didn't say that.
Well,
they just,
but that's what I'm
Okay.
telling you, and that's what you knew from before. Go ahead.
So at 4 o'clock in the morning, she started playing on my phone. She called me.
Just a second. Was he still in the apartment?
No, he left altogether.
He left. They both then left.
They both left, correct.
Okay, and then what did you do?
I went inside, and at that point, I started watching TV. I finally fell asleep around 3:30 or 4 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, they started playing on my phone. I turned my phone off.
Just a second. Did you lock the door?
I locked the door.
Did you double bolt it from inside?
I locked the top locks.
So that means that he could not get in?
He can get in. He had a key.
No.
He has a key. He had a key to the apartment. He stayed there. He has a key.
Go ahead.
I only had a key to the bar door. I didn't have a key to the wooden door. So that's how she locked me out.
Okay, that's what I assumed.
Okay.
So you locked him out. Hey, Miss Clark, don't play with me. So you locked him out.
I locked the door.
You
Judge,
locked him
I was afraid for my
out.
life. He threatened
Listen,
me.
Miss Clark, just answer my questions, madam. You locked him out. The police had already told you that you had no right to lock him out, but you locked him out and he broke the door down. Is that what happened?
Yes, he came.
Is that what?
Yes.
Is that what happened?
Yes.
He can do that.
At 5 o'clock in the morning, he
can
kicked
do
in the
that.
door with this young lady here at
He
5
can
in the
do
morning.
it.
Why is he kicking the door in
He
at
can
5 in the morning?
Listen to me.
At that point, I was very afraid for my life,
Well,
Judge.
I don't
was
care whether you
very
were afraid
for my
Miss
life.
Clark, hey, I don't care whether you were afraid for your life. You locked the door. They tried to call you. You turned your phone off.
No,
and
that's
he broke
not the
door
reason she was
down.
calling
Miss
me.
Clark, listen to me carefully. He has the right to do that. Sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. You got your $1,000, but you had no right to do what you did. The police already told you you had no right to keep him out, so you took the law into your own hands and you locked him out. And he has the right to go into his place of abode, which is where he was living with you for a long time. And he broke down the door because you had no right to lock him out.
I understand that, Judge, but at the same time, it doesn't take him to come to my home at 5 in the morning. I have small children living with me. Why is he coming to my home at 5 in the morning, kicking in my door?
Listen to me.
I'm afraid for my life at that point.
Listen
and
to
he's
me.
coming
Put your hand down.
with someone
You're trying
to
to
hit
talk
me?
over me. That's not going to happen. I tried to explain it to you. The police tried to explain it to you. You didn't like their answer, and you don't like mine.
Judge, I have pictures of the damages that he done to my apartment here.
That's your problem.
When he kicked in the door, he damaged
Listen
my
to
coffee
me.
room table. He broke the table.
Then you shouldn't have locked the door. The next day, you go to court and you tried to have him evicted for whatever reason.
I actually got a restraining order because I was falsely arrested.
That's what
I
you
was
have
falsely
to do.
arrested, and I have
okay.
my witness here that can attest to that. When I called the police, they came back out and he claimed that I hit him and he put me in jail. So he falsely arrested me on battery charges, and that's a lie because I have paperwork here also saying that no charges were filed against me. So in the midst of me being nice and helping him out, I get suckered in the end. I lose all this money in the end because I tried to help this gentleman out here.
I want to tell you something. You have children who live with you?
Yes, I do.
You don't bring somebody into your house that you've known 3 months.
I know. I learned
Just
my
a
lesson
second.
now.
Well, now you learn your lesson better. Because if there wasn't some bizarre reason for bringing him into your house after 3 months to expose him to your 2 children, bizarre reason that I don't even want to get into right now. You don't do that if you're a responsible adult and a responsible parent.
Judge, I go to work every day.
Miss
every
Clark,
day.
you made a mistake.
Yes, you're right. I made a mistake.
Acknowledge
I do.
your mistake.
I did.
And you also, if you're a hardworking
I
lady
did.
and have 2 children that you're supporting, you don't lend somebody who's a couch sleeper $1,000 of your hard-earned money.
I learned my lesson.
Well,
right,
now
I
you're going to
did.
learn a better lesson. You get your money back, but the rest of it is your problem. You had no right to lock him out of the place where he had been living for half a year. You owe her the $1,000 for the car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Daycare provider Samantha Burks says former client Lillian Linton owes for breaking their contract. Lillian claims Samantha left her kids unattended in a parked car. She is countersuing for child neglect.
I've read your complaint, which alleges that the defendant breached a written contract that you had with her for child care. At some point, she terminated your services, you say, without good cause. She owes you some money. And in addition, she filed false charges against you with Child Protective Services, which required them to investigate your home, investigate whether or not you should continue to be licensed as a child care provider.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Linton says that she took her children out of your care because you placed them in a situation that could have been dangerous. And she is counterclaiming for the potential harm that you did to her children. So when did she take the children out of your care?
On the 1st of July.
Tell me what monies you allege she owes you.
I'm alleging she owes me all that is paid through the county. She called me and gave me a 2-week notice and didn't fulfill it.
She gave you 2 weeks' notice when?
The day after in question, I guess it would be the 2nd of July.
On or about July 1st?
Well, may I tell you a little bit previously? Because I had not been keeping her kids. The end of school had come, and so we started making arrangements again for me to start keeping her children again. Miss Linton leaves her children home alone. I only was keeping her youngest son.
Shh. Don't interrupt her. I just want to know what happened on 7/1.
Okay. The day in question, I picked her children up.
How many children?
I picked all 4 of them up.
How old are they?
They're 13, 9, 6, and 1.
Is that your son?
Yes.
How old are you?
12.
Is that the one that you said was 13?
Yes, I was told he was 13.
You're 12?
Yes.
12, 9, 6, and 1?
12, 8, 6, and 1.
Okay. Go ahead. So you picked up her children, 4 children.
I picked up her children, and the day in question, I had a class I have to take. There are certain requirements through the county that you have to take classes. So I had a class. Gloria McMillan's a friend of mine, and I have her watch them. She's watched her kids many times before.
Is Miss McMillan a licensed daycare provider?
No.
Are you permitted under your contract with the state to leave the children with unlicensed daycare providers?
Yes.
You are?
That I'm aware of.
No.
I've never...
Shh. Listen, I don't need any help, and this isn't a tea dance. Not that you're aware of.
Not that I'm not aware of, exactly.
Oh, okay. So, Ms. Burks, did you have to take classes in order to be a child care provider?
Yes.
Did they do a background check?
Yes.
Criminal background check. They did fingerprinting?
Yep.
Photographing?
Yep.
So you went through a process before the government says we will pay you money to watch children.
To get my license, you go through that process.
That's right. To get your license as a child care provider, you must go through this process.
Yes, ma'am.
She didn't go through the process.
Okay.
So nobody has to tell you that she's not permitted to take care of the children.
No.
I'm telling you that unless you are vetted by the state so that you can get a license, you can't give over the care of 4 children to somebody else.
I understand that now.
Good. What happened next?
Well, I haven't even gotten to the beginning of that day because I would like to tell you the whole day.
I want you to tell me what happened when you left the children in a car. That's what this is all about.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Well, then get there.
Okay. On the day of question, I picked her children up. I went to the county building, had some paperwork to drop off for my father. I take care of my father, who was terminally ill, dying of cancer. After that, I went and picked up Gloria McMillan to watch the children for me. On the way home, I stopped past the party store. Getting out of the car, I said, guys, you guys wait right here. I'm going to run in the party store real quick, let my daughter pick out her party invitations. And we proceeded into the store. I left her children in the car. And on my way out of the car...
Where was she?
She went into the store to speak to a friend of hers that worked at the register in the store.
How old is your daughter?
My daughter is 2 now.
The daughter who was picking up?
Yeah. I have a very bright 2-year-old.
Just a second.
What 2-year-old would be in them?
I'll give you this last opportunity. Then you're going out. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So let me understand this. First, you went to take care of some business for your father, who you take care of.
Mm-hmm.
And you took the children with you.
Mm-hmm.
Had this lady been watching the children yet?
No, she was not with me.
Just a second. Who was with the children when you dropped the paperwork off?
I was with the children.
Did they come into the county building with
Actually,
you?
no, they stayed outdoors and played. I never thought any of this to be a problem at all, Miss Linton.
Well, Miss Burks, it's a problem. That's what we're doing now. I'm going over the day.
I understand
I'm going over the day because it's getting worse as we go forward.
No, ma'am, this is already worse. I understand what I did was completely wrong.
Well, if you understand that, then, Miss Burks, I don't quite understand why you're here. Because from what I read in the complaint...
Miss Linton is slandering my name.
Just a second. If what you're telling me is you picked up her children and you had your 2-year-old in the car, you went to the county building.
Mm-hmm.
Did you take your 2-year-old inside with you?
To the county building, yes, ma'am, and her son.
Shh. And her 12-year-old or her 1-year-old?
Her littlest son. They stayed outside and played basketball.
You went inside and you took your 2-year-old and her 1-year-old into the county building. And her other 3 children stayed outside alone.
And played on the playground.
I don't care where they played. They stayed outside alone.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you come back to the car and you went and picked up this lady.
Yes.
And then 2 adults, your daughter, went inside to a store and you left her 4 children in the car, including the 1-year-old.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how long were you in the store?
Maybe 5 minutes.
So that's what the case is about. It was the next day that she called and gave you notice.
Right, but that's not what she called me and said the next day.
What did she call you and say the next day?
She called me on the phone. When I answered, I said, hello. She says, I'm giving you a 2-week notice because you have a problem with my son. I said, no, ma'am, I don't have a problem with your son. Your son is a child. You're a liar.
No, no, no. Listen to me. Miss Linton, don't speak to her. Okay, go ahead.
I said, no, ma'am, I don't have a problem with your son. Your son is a child. Your son has a problem with following adult supervision. And this is not the first incident that I had an issue with her son. I said to her, your children were throwing rocks, and I asked them to stop. When I asked them to stop, her son looked over at me and said, I'm not throwing rocks, just like that, with a handful of rocks. So I said, I'll just call your mom. When I called her on the phone, she said, let me see if I can remember her exact words. They know I don't play that. I'm going to beat that when they get home. I said, okay, I'm just letting you know it's not acceptable in my house. People have nice things around here. I don't want to be responsible for anything that happens. And that was it. We got off the phone. Later that evening, I had to have my father rushed to the hospital. I was under a lot of stress. Her kids were still outdoors, not paying me any mind, not listening to anything I said. And when she got there, you could see the agitation in her face, you know.
Where does your father live?
He lives with me.
Ms. Burks, your plate is too full.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Now, when you accept the responsibility of taking care of someone else's children, you have to take care of them sometimes better than their own parents take care of them.
I did.
No, no, no. Listen to me. If you have 5 children,
I made a very big mistake, and I would never do it again.
You have 5. Listen to me. I'm not even going there. The car, totally, 100% unacceptable. And she had every right to call Child Protective Services and say, you left 4 children in the car, including a 1-year-old child, and I'm complaining about that.
I never said she was wrong about that. What she's wrong about is that she wants to point the finger at me when she's a bad mother herself. She leaves her children home daily.
Miss Burks, listen to me. If we were involved in some other forum, I would say to you, fine, we can vent upon who's a better mother, who's a bad mother, who's a good mother. We're here because you sued her for two things: for money for child care and for filing a false report to Child Protective Services. Whether she's a good mother, whether she's a bad mother, whether she's a wicked stepmother, whatever she is, she did the right thing by calling Child Protective Services to report that you had left the children alone. Your plate is very full. When you accept children into your home as a child care provider, you're supposed to do more with those children than just be a body there. You're supposed to play with them. You're supposed to provide them with activity. With
Are you asking me if I did
no,
these
listen
things,
to
or
me.
you just telling me what I'm supposed
What
to
I'm
do?
telling you is, if you have a 2-year-old toddler yourself and a father who is terminally ill with cancer that you're caring for in your home, it is impossible to set up a home, your home, to be an appropriate and adequate child care provider.
Well, Judge Judy, that's your opinion. I disagree. And my father was not diagnosed with lung cancer when I took care of her children. Through the process of taking care of her children, he was diagnosed with lung cancer.
You told me the story, madam. You said I had to drop some papers off for my father who was dying of cancer, who I was also caring for. You told that to me.
But you're saying to me...
I'm saying to you,
in general,
with
or
your
that
own
day?
children, that day.
Okay, yes, ma'am, okay.
That day, that's all you need is one day. That's all you need is one day to miss a child. You know, they missed a couple of children on another coast, and they ended up in the trunk of a car.
I actually investigated myself. There's a lot of bad things that happen to children that get left in cars, and I'm very aware of it.
Absolutely. Ended up in trunks of car, and they didn't get them in time.
Do it again.
So what
I would never do it again.
So you don't belong in court, Miss Burks?
Yes, ma'am, I do. Miss Linton is going around town saying bad things about me. I am not a bad person.
Just a second. If you have information or witnesses that she's saying anything about you scandalous that have to do with other than your child care abilities, I'll be more than happy to hear witnesses to that.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't know what, if she's saying things about you, about your personal life, that you have a disease, that you're a thief.
No, she's just basically in a nutshell saying that I'm a bad person. Her exact words was that I'm not cracked up to all that I'm supposed to be.
Listen to me. That's her opinion. And she can say that, and not all speech is actionable in a court. What you did as a child care provider was wrong, so you have no basis to sue her for either the money that you claim she owes you or for calling Child Protective Services. None. She's got a counterclaim.
Yes, I do.
Your counterclaim is that she left your 4 children in the car.
Yes.
Were any of them hospitalized?
No, they weren't
Just listen to me. I have questions. Any of them treated by a physician that day or the next day?
No.
Okay, so they suffered no injury. Who are you?
I had the kids the following day, and the 1-year-old was throwing up 2 to 3 times.
You're a liar. And I have never seen this one before. She did not have the 1-year-old the next day. I kept her son overnight.
I am a licensed
I kept her son overnight.
I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. So far, you have no case.
That's fine. I don't care if I don't have a case.
Good.
She will not sit here on national TV and lie about me. I kept her son overnight, you liar.
Miss Burks, I've already explained in a calm fashion why I'm dismissing your case.
That's fine.
Miss Linton, you have no counterclaim against her. You have no proof that her actions caused illness to any of your children. You were perfectly within your rights to take them out of her care. And I'm speaking. I'm speaking. And you were perfectly within your rights to call Child Protective Services to report the neglect. Other than that, you have no claim against her because her actions, while they placed your children in potential harm's way, did not cause any injury to your children. Your counterclaim's dismissed. That's all. Step out.
Harm's way every day.
He's a liar.
Home alone.
Liar.
Parties are accused. You may step out.
That's it.
Geraldine Brady says her daughter and son-in-law, Cassie and Cliff Yelvington, falsely accused her of abusing their daughter. The defendants are countersuing for charges filed by Geraldine.
Miss Brady, this young lady is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is your husband.
Yes, sir.
According to your complaint, some time ago, your daughter and her husband had a small baby. That baby was removed from their custody by the state because of abuse, and the baby was placed in your custody.
Yes, ma'am.
You had her for approximately a year?
20 months, Your Honor.
And after 20 months, there was a reunification process, and she was ultimately returned to her parents.
Yes, Your Honor.
You now have that child and another child.
Yes, ma'am.
Your complaint is that there came a point where your daughter and son-in-law made some false allegations about you, which required you, because you have a teaching position, to retain an attorney in order to dispute those allegations. And you want them to pay for that attorney and for the emotional distress that you went through from something. Your daughter and her husband say that there came a point when they were concerned over something that their daughter had told them when you were visiting with her, and they had every right to report that. And they are counterclaiming because they say that you have embarked upon a course of trying to interfere with the reunification process by making allegations against the Child Protective Services. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When was the child originally removed from your custody?
January 13th of 2005.
How old was she?
She was approximately 3 months old.
And what was the nature of the abuse that she suffered at 3 months old?
Some people that we thought were friends, and their youngest daughter was going through and put bite marks on our child.
Over what period of time?
A week or two.
You pled guilty to abuse or neglect?
Neglect.
And you understand that you neglected her?
Yes.
As did you?
I wasn't there. I was at work. I was working out of town for the period that this had happened.
The entire time?
It had happened within a week. I was out of town for the whole week.
Now, when the child was with you, did the parents visit?
Yes, ma'am.
At your house?
Initially, they had supervised visitation at my house, and due to the deteriorating situation, I asked for their visitation to be moved to a visitor center.
Well, that's part of their counterclaim, that if you hadn't forced the visitation to be at a visitation center, they might have been reunified with their child earlier. So I would like you to tell me, Miss Brady, what caused you to report this deteriorating situation?
They were coming over to my house, and I was allowing them wide open visitation. They could come, sit comfortably. I fed them. I permitted them to have any length of visitation they wanted. That was approximately June of 2005. Cliff went into court and claimed that he was paying child support to me, and I had not received any child support from them whatsoever. Also, when they came, they were bringing some people over with them. I didn't mind his family members, immediate family members, like his sisters and Kaylee's little cousins, but they started bringing strangers over.
Who would you bring over to the house?
My cousin.
Why would you do that?
We checked with her first. We told her that we were going to bring over my niece and my cousin, and she
Why
said
would
she
you
didn't
bring
have a problem.
anybody?
Because she would not come over down to Orlando so that my family could see my daughter, and my family wanted to see my daughter because they hadn't seen her since she was born.
Just a minute. What does that have to do with little cousins?
It's not. She was like 13 years old.
So what? This is for you and your wife. Visitation is for you and your wife. How many cousins did you bring to the visitor center?
We didn't take anybody to the visitation center because it was done during the week whenever everybody was working.
Right. So Miss Brady was taking care of business that you should have been taking care of, and if she said to you, don't bring people.
She never told me not to bring people.
Did you tell him not to bring people?
No.
Well, how was she supposed to be a mind reader?
Well, I did object to one person's presence. He was supposedly a friend of Brandy's, his older sister, and I did object to it to Cassie.
And what did she say?
She just shrugged her shoulders and made an excuse.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you got tired of all these people in your house?
Yes.
So you asked that the visitation be at someplace else?
Yes.
Were you going to visitation every weekend with your daughter?
At the center, it wasn't on the weekend. It was only during
At your mother's house?
We were going there about 3-4 days a week.
So that was great.
Us.
That was great.
Yes.
Should have kept it simple.
We didn't know that there was a problem until she sprung it on us at the last minute, saying that there's visitation at the center now instead of at her house.
Okay. Should have been smart enough to figure it out.
If she would have came up to us and said, hey, I have a problem with some of the stuff that's going on, we would have done what we could to correct it.
Mr. Yeldington, you may be right. She probably should have said something to you before she moved it, but that's not a legitimate lawsuit. You should have been smart enough to keep it simple. Go with your wife, sit with your wife, with your 3-month-old daughter, bond with her, spend as much time with her as you can, and not involve the rest of your family. That's just not smart to do. Could she have told you? Absolutely. Is that a lawsuit? Absolutely not. Now, the child was ultimately reunified when?
September the 15th, 2006.
Tell me what happened after September the 15th.
Well, there was one visit that I went to pick her up at. Josh, my grandson, went to pick her up. I had visitation with her every other weekend. and I noticed there was like a mark on the side of her face. Well, when I got her home, it looked like a full-blown handprint on the left side of her face.
Josh, just stand up, please. Josh, you went to pick the baby up.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see any mark on her face?
Yes, ma'am.
Describe it to me.
It was marks on her face, and there was like some bruising right here.
Did you ask her what happened?
No, ma'am.
Did you?
She wasn't that verbal at that time.
Okay, fine. Do you remember what month this was?
September 2006, towards the end.
So you reported it?
Yes, I did, to the caseworker, and I took pictures.
You have pictures?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see them, please.
Here's the originals.
Very hard to see any mark.
Right.
Oh, I see the bruise in the middle of her lip. That I
Right.
do see.
Yeah, that was on a separate occasion.
And then in October of 2006, I see a large black and blue mark on her forehead.
That's it.
Okay. You did the very wise thing and the right thing to notify the caseworker. You understand that, don't you?
Yes, I'm trying to recall on what these marks were.
Yeah, because we were never notified by the department that there was any marks on her.
Or by my
Well,
mother.
but you do understand that being a responsible person, knowing the history of this child.
Yes, ma'am. But what I'm saying is, if there was a allegation made to the department, I think the department would have, at least done an investigation on it. There was
The
no
department
investigation done.
should have done an investigation on it.
Yes, ma'am.
Whether they did or not is another story. No question about that. Okay, what happened next, Miss Brady?
In January of 2007, I had picked up Kaylee from their home, and when I was giving her a shower, I noticed what appeared to be like burn marks, like in a circle on her butt. And I did call DCF. The DCF investigator did tell me, take her to the hospital, have her examined by the hospital.
And did you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a report from the hospital?
No.
Because you're not the parent.
Right, and I didn't have custody of her at that time.
You have a report from the hospital on this incident?
We do not have it. We gave the copy to our caseworker because we were notified of the allegation. And the moment I was notified, I took my daughter down to the hospital, had her examined, and then also told them to call up the sheriff's department and told them I want to do everything by the book because this allegation is ridiculous.
Did you get a report when Miss Brady took her to the hospital?
Not from the hospital, but I do have the report with the department.
I'd like to read it. Are you trying to toilet train your child?
Yes, Your Honor.
Does your daughter have a psychiatric history?
No. After this point, I think she should.
Well, it is clear to me that based upon this, somebody observed marks and thighs that were clearly visible 2 days after your mother-in-law took the child to the hospital.
That right there would be the allegation that Miss Brady put against us
No,
for
no,
my
no,
daughter.
no, 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 my dear.
Because our caseworker...
Kaylee has excoriated red marks on her buttocks and thigh. That's an observation, sir. That is not Miss Brady's observation. That's an observation either by a physician at the emergency room or the caseworker. It says, describes them. They're on her thighs. They're about 2 inches long. The marks on her lower buttocks looks like they may have been from sitting on the toilet for a long period of time.
Which she was not. And the doctors that we took her to and the investigators and everybody told us that they
Don't tell me what anybody told you. Show me a report. This is the only report that I have.
As far as her sitting on the potty for too long, she liked to play on the potty and try to be a big girl, and she would sit there herself. We didn't force her to stay there. And the marks on her thigh were chafing from her diaper because we went for a walk that morning before my mother picked her up.
You also had an excuse for the bite mark she suffered on her body. You claimed that that was not your fault. It is your fault. Whether you did the biting or you permitted this child to be, for over a week's period of time, bitten by another child, that's your fault. And just because a 2-year-old wants to sit on the toilet for a long time doesn't mean that a parent who is exercising parental responsibility allows a child to do that to such an extent that the child has welts on her bottom Child should not have marks on their thighs from chafing from a diaper if all you have to do is take care of her, which is what the two of you have to do. Take care of her. So far, Miss Brady, you did everything right.
Thank you.
Now, would you please tell me why you were forced to hire a lawyer?
Well, throughout this 20 months, they've made numerous allegations.
Uncross your arms.
Against me, but then they made a very serious allegation against me July 26, 2006. And I think it was in retaliation because things didn't go very well for them in court.
What do you mean things didn't go?
I guess that day, they were expecting to be reunited with their child that day in court, and it didn't come about. And I also was badgering them about the child support that they owed me. And we had left court, I had gone, and then next thing I know, I'm getting a call from the caseworker to take Kaylee to a hospital or a doctor immediately for a sexual exam, because the allegation had come from Cassie or Cliff.
That said what?
That said they felt that the child had been sexually abused while she was in my care.
Really?
And this really was...
What made you think that?
She would shy away from men. She would not go near them. Like if I would go to pick her up, and I mean, whenever I'd walk around, she would run right up to me. And if I'd go to pick her up, she would curl up in a ball and start crying. So what I did is I told my caseworker, this is what's happening. I don't know what to think about it. I just figured I should notify you about it. And where it went from there was that they put in the abuse allegation for...
Against who?
Against her mother.
You're crazy. Something wrong with you. And you're a nasty person, too.
How am I a nasty person?
You're a nasty person because you retaliated against somebody who took on a responsibility that you and your wife couldn't take care of, which is taking care of a 3-month-old child. I assume that Miss Brady, once she raised her own children, didn't plan on nor desire to raise a 3-month-old baby. The reason she had to do that was in order to prevent your 3-month-old daughter from going into a foster care situation, because the two of you neglected her, minimally neglected her, perhaps abused her. So she was for 20 months. And instead of kissing her feet, which you should have done,
we tried.
You accused this teacher, this person who cleaned up after your mess, of abuse. That's why you're not a very nice person. Because I have a sense that you rule the roost in your house. That's my sense. My sense is also that your wife could use a little psychiatric intervention. And if you don't see to it that that happens, you now have 2 children?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
It's not going to be the last time that your children are the subject of intervention by the state. So if you rule the roost in your house, and if you're not the one who's abusing your children, I suggest that you get your wife some help. How much did you spend on a lawyer?
$600.
That you pay her back. How much support did you ultimately give her for the time she took care of your daughter?
We came up to a verbal agreement that if she claimed Kaylee on the tax return, we would
You
not have to
didn't
pay
answer
it.
my question.
We
I
didn't
said
give
how
her
much
any money because we had a verbal contract that if she claimed her on her tax return, we wouldn't have to pay child support anymore.
The child support wasn't ordered until 2006.
It doesn't have to be ordered. Does it have to be ordered for you to watch your
We
child
were-
so
no,
that she doesn't get bitten?
We were giving my daughter diapers, clothes, anything that she needed.
Who cares if you give somebody diapers?
Okay, and then she comes out
Who
and tells the
cares if
courts,
you give a baby diapers?
I understand that, ma'am, but then she comes out and tells the courts that she thinks that me saying I'm not going to pay for her bills, not my daughter's, hers, is unfounded because she actually came out and said she wanted this much for this much for this, and this much for this, and one of those being cable, and my 3-month-old daughter wasn't watching cable.
Mr. Yeldington, so instead of doing something, you did nothing. Exclude the cable. You didn't even protect your 3-month-old daughter.
Yes, we did. As soon as...
No, you didn't, because your wife had to, of necessity, fed, bathed, and changed this baby over a week's period of time. And as soon as she saw the first bite mark on this child, that child should have been removed from the environment. She chose not to do that. And if you were in communication with your wife, and if there's not something wrong with her mentally, she would have told you that the 3-month-old child had been abused by somebody in that house. And if you were any sort of a parent, you would have come off the road and said, I don't care where we're going, we'll go to a shelter in order to protect her. Instead, you allowed this child to be abused over a week's period of time, according to your wife. And instead of kissing her feet, You made her life miserable. That's your mother. 25 years from now, you're not going to know who he is, but she will always be your mother. And you will always be able to count on her to clean up after you, not him. And if you need mental help, get it. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am, but there is one thing. I was not able to notify my husband of the marks because the people that we were staying with would not allow me to use the phone, and I had no
Crawl out. Abe Lincoln walked 10 miles to school. If your child is being abused, you leave and go to a shelter. What's wrong with you?
Where we lived, there was no shelters nearby.
Go to a police station. Where did you live? In the Yukon? Quiet. You go to a shelter. You go to a police station. You go someplace, or you don't let your daughter out of your sight.
Yes, Your Honor.
Don't say anything.
Okay.
You're both working now?
Yes.
Perfect. Your counterclaim for nonsense is dismissed. You're asking for $1,600, which includes infliction of emotional distress, which you've had, and your attorney's fees.
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all. Step out.
Thank you.
Holly McLean says ex-husband Steve Reed owes for his share of their daughter's wedding. Steve says Holly went over budget.
Mr. Reed, how many children do you have, sir?
6.
Who is your oldest child?
Stephanie.
That's this child here?
Yes.
And your youngest?
Brandon.
How old is Brandon?
Brandon is 8.
You and Mrs. McLean were married for how long?
2 years, I believe.
And how many children do you have together?
2.
Your daughter is planning her wedding, and according to her, you and your former husband agreed to split the cost of the wedding. You did a budget, it was going to be $5,000. Mr. Reed, you agreed to pay for half.
Correct.
You did, in fact, pay $2,500.
Yes, ma'am.
But the wedding went over budget, and you want him to pay half of the overage of $800.
Yes.
And Mr. Reed says, you went over budget, girls. That's your problem. I agreed to pay for half the wedding, which was budgeted at $5,000, and that's what I'm going to pay.
I agree.
Why did you go over budget?
Well, the reason we had gone...
Don't listen. Did you have a nice wedding?
Yeah. She had a beautiful wedding.
Beautiful wedding, beautiful bride, beautiful husband, nice-looking parents. Don't act... What?
I said yes, thank you.
Do you let him speak at home? Is that the reason he feels compelled to speak here? Because he's not allowed to speak at home?
Don't speak, honey.
She's cute. Okay, now getting back to you. Why did you go over budget?
Well, the reason we had gone over budget was we had it at the reception at a place that cost a lot more money than we had anticipated.
Now, when you realized that this was going to cost more than you anticipated, because you could have found a site that would have cost within the budget, but that's not what you really wanted, right? You wanted a different place. What did you do when you realized you were going over budget?
Well, Stephanie and I did a lot of emails back and forth because she actually lives in Utah. And I was planning the wedding here. And so I had told her that it looked like we were probably going to go over the cost of the wedding. And so she was kind of my in-between person between her dad and I, and had emailed to him and his current wife that we were going to be probably going over the budget.
Do you have an email from him indicating that's fine, I will pay half of whatever the overage is?
I do.
Let me see it.
This was actually an email to Stephanie.
That's fine. Well, this is not from Mr. Reed. This is from Mr. Reed's wife.
Right.
Do you know that your wife sent an email, sir, that said, listen, that's to Steph, and said, your dad and I don't have a problem if you go over the $5,000 sum, as long as your mom is willing to split the cost. Do you know that your wife said that?
At the time that email was written, no, I wasn't aware that she said that.
When did you become aware of this?
I became aware about 1 to 2 weeks before the wedding as we discussed the overage.
So your wife was speaking allegedly for you, which she can't do, but they acted upon this and then went over their budget. Do you understand?
Yes.
So it was really in good faith that your daughter went over the budget because she felt as if she was dealing with your wife, and your wife had the authority to say, okay, as long as mom splits the cost and as long as you're not going. So when you found out, Mr. Reed, about this email, what did you do?
Well, by the time I found out about the comment that my wife made, things had already become contentious because all along I had made it clear to Holly that I agreed to a certain amount. Not only that, in the beginning, Holly wanted to spend far less. I actually felt that we should spend more, and it was my suggestion to pay the $5,000. Then come
Is
back.
that true?
That's true.
That's a good guy.
So to then come back to me and then say that she wanted me to pay more money, and not only that, in the beginning when she wanted me to pay the overage, she wanted me to pay the entire overage, which she estimated would be $300 to $400. And like I say, it became contentious, and so I said, we're going to have to settle the matter after the wedding. I don't want it to affect the wedding.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Reed. So?
So?
Well, he did not agree to pay half of the overage.
I know he did not agree to pay half. But when I had sent them an email stating why we had gone over, and he even told me on the wedding day that he would help me pay the overage of the wedding.
Did you tell her that, Mr. Reed?
What I said is that I would look at the expenses and analyze them and get back to her.
And did you look at the expenses?
I did.
Anything there look untoward to you?
The invitations cost $280 more than we had originally was discussed with my wife, Suzanne. There was a DJ that I knew nothing about, and he cost $450.
Well, DJ is great at a wedding. Did everybody have a good time?
I think so.
Did you dance?
A little bit.
I didn't say if you danced well, Mr. Reed.
Yes.
I said, did you dance?
I did.
Other than the DJ for $450, was it originally anticipated that there was any music?
There was going to be pre-recorded music. Okay.
I have very little sympathy because if what we're talking about here is $800, I would have paid the $2 so we wouldn't end up here. So there wouldn't be any bad feeling. You probably already paid so much to raise your daughter to this point, right? Probably cost you a couple of bucks over the course of, how old are you?
19.
19 years? So I don't know whether I would make a big to-do. But let's see. All right, the DJ, what else?
Let's see, there was a video that was done that was presented at the wedding. It was a nice video. It was $210.
A video of what?
They interviewed Stephanie and Tim about the way they met and things like that. And it was shown at the wedding. Yes, it was nicely done. But once again, I knew nothing about it. The bridesmaids' outfits, traditionally the bridesmaids pay for those.
That's absolutely right. Why didn't the bridesmaids pay for their own outfits?
Well, Stephanie and I discussed that we would just take care of that.
Well, I don't know. You can't do that and obligate him. Ms. McLean. First of all, it's not traditional.
Right.
And second of all, you can't be magnanimous with his money. What else?
The last one is traditionally a portion of the flowers are paid for by the groom or the groom's family. So the portion of those flowers, I have it listed at $248.
Can I say something about the flowers? I didn't feel we should ask Tim's family to pay for the flowers. They were actually having a reception in Arizona a week later, and they were paying for everything there for that reception. And they also paid for the luncheon, so I didn't feel it was right to ask them to also pay for the flowers.
Well, very nice. What do you want from him? He doesn't want to be used as a cash register.
Oh, I understand.
Which is, we'll make the arrangements, and you'll pay your half. And we don't have to consult with you. We're going to tell you this is what we want to do, and if it goes over, it goes over. Well, that's unreasonable.
Well, there's more to it than that.
You may explain it to me. But did you call him and tell him about the DJ before you hired the DJ?
No.
Did you call him and tell him that you were going to pay for the bridesmaids' dresses before you agreed to pay for them?
No.
Did you call him and tell him you decided not to ask the bridegroom's family for the flowers?
Yes, we did tell them that.
When?
Before the wedding, when he had stated that they thought that the groom's family had to pay for part of the flowers.
And what did you say? You told him no.
I didn't agree with that.
Fine. That doesn't mean he's not entitled to say, that's fine. You want to pay for that? Pay for it.
Okay, but there's more to it. Where we had the reception, we actually wanted to have it at my parents' house so we could cut the costs. Well, Steve didn't want to have it there.
I don't blame him.
It would have been, the cost would have been a lot less.
Miss McLean, what you just said to me has absolutely nothing to do with what I've told you, which is you cannot use your former husband as a cash register. He's a person with opinions, and as long as you want to spend money and you want him to reimburse you for the money, he has the right to an opinion. You may not agree with that opinion, and if you don't agree with it and you want to spend the money, you spend it. What he's complaining about is you didn't discuss it with him, and that was wrong. I just want you to understand that I don't think your father was wrong. I think your mother was well-intentioned, but I don't think your father was wrong. And I've been involved with lots of weddings. And I wouldn't think of saying to my ex-husband, you're going to pay for half, and I'm going to decide where it's going to be, what kind of music we have, what flowers we have, what the invitations look like, and I'll send you the bill for half. Right?
But we did...
Flattened out on the floor. And I wouldn't blame him. So, in case there's any bad feeling, I don't think your father was wrong. And Miss McLean, if you wanted to do these things and you chose not to get an agreement with him before, you pay for it yourself. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
18-year-old Matthew Johnston is suing his ex-friend's father, Stan Valentine, for damage to his car. Matthew says Stan's son, 18-year-old Josh, dented the hood when he jumped on it.
It is your complaint that you were at a party where there was drinking going on, and at that party, this young man jumped on the hood of your car, caused about $750 worth of damage on the car, and you want him to pay for it.
That's correct.
Now, young Josh says that everybody was drunk. He's not exactly sure what happened, but his father has an interesting defense. So you're going to tell me at this party.
It was on or about July 14th.
Was it July 14th?
I believe so, it was.
And at whose house was the party?
At this girl named Emma's. Her graduating class was the year before me, and I knew friends that knew her.
Emma has a last name?
I'm not sure what her last name is, ma'am.
How many people were at the party?
Maybe about 20, a little less.
Were you an invited guest?
I think it was kind of like just a get-together of the people who had known those people. So I went with friends. So no, I was not.
It was easier, right?
Yeah.
No, you weren't invited
No, I
guest?
wasn't invited.
What's the drinking age where you are?
21, ma'am.
How old is Emma?
19.
Were her parents home?
No, they were not.
They gone for the weekend?
Yes, I believe so, they were.
Listen out there in television land. Lock the doors. If you go away for a weekend and you have teenagers, your house will never be safe. That's true. Right, Matthew?
Yes.
Matthew Johnston says former friend Josh Valentine jumped on the hood of his car when he was drunk.
Okay. Now, tell me when it was that Josh jumped on the hood of your car.
It was about 11:30 that night. Christopher noticed that a friend of ours, David, he was already past curfew, and he was very intoxicated, and we needed to get him home. So Chris suggested we take him home. So about 15 minutes later, we're outside in the parking lot putting David in. We're all about ready to go.
Putting David in the car?
Yes, David in the car. And then Chris is in the front seat.
Who was driving?
I was driving.
Your car?
Yes. And so I get in the driver's seat. Everyone gets inside the car. And next thing I know, Josh comes out from the left side and jumps on my car. His knee hits the side of the fender on the left side of the car. At that point, I was just furious. I just turned on the car and just left. Went and took David home, went and brought Chris back, stayed at the party for maybe like another hour. Ended up that Andre needed a ride home. His car was parked at Josh's house. Josh as well needed a ride home. Josh was pretty drunk. I didn't really want to take Josh home because he just jumped on my car. Andre said we needed to take him home.
Is that right?
No, ma'am.
Step up. You're Andre?
Yes, ma'am.
You needed a ride home because you had been drinking?
Yes, ma'am.
And he had been drinking?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see him jump on the hood of his car?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what happened.
Josh actually comes on and puts his hands onto the car. It doesn't, I mean, could have been forceful, but it wasn't enough to see that would knock a dent in the car. But yes, he did slam on from the car, told him to stop, and we didn't want him to take Dave home.
Well, you did a lot of double talking there at the very end, but what I gather that you said was, yes, you saw Josh, who had been drinking, put his hands in a forceful manner on Matthew's car.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Do you have a car?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of car do you have?
A 02 black Mustang.
Where did you leave the car?
At Joshua's house, ma'am.
Why?
Because I wasn't going to drive that night.
Because you were drinking.
Yes, ma'am.
Smart. So you're smart enough to know that you don't want to get into a car somebody driving who has been drinking.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, to drive you home.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes.
One must assume from the fact that you allowed Matthew to drive you home that you felt as if Matthew was in good enough shape to drive you home.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Valentine, now I'll hear you, sir.
I feel that based on the circumstances,
Matthew was, in fact, drinking quite heavily.
You don't know that. That's not according to your witness. Not according to your witness. Your witness just testified, sir, unequivocally, that he felt sufficiently comfortable with Matthew driving him home, and he would not have gotten into a car with somebody who had been intoxicated, so that he left his car home because he wasn't going to drink and drive, but he allowed Matthew to drive him home because Matthew was sober enough to drive home. So let's get over that. Okay, now you're going to tell me why he's not responsible.
Well, maybe he is to a certain extent. I would say that he has some partial responsibility, possibly, if anything. There are some inconsistencies in Matt's story. First of all, he didn't contact Josh the next day.
I didn't ask about contacting him the next day.
Oh, I guess I feel that Matt has responsibility. I feel the people that put on the party had some responsibility.
Why does Matt have responsibility?
Because he was drinking.
What does that have to do with the dent on the car?
Well, I think if you're going to go out and go drinking and driving and partying and you're underage, you probably should not be surprised if there are going to be negative consequences. I think he should have some responsibility.
That's what we're talking about here, Mr. Valentine, responsibility.
Yes.
Where's yours?
We have maybe some partial responsibility.
Which part? Let me hear which part you think you have responsibility for.
Maybe a third of it. That was what I felt was fair and reasonable.
Well, there is a part of me, sir, that says that I think that you have the right, if you wish, to sue the people whose home this party was held at for inadequate supervision.
Okay.
If that's what you think you want to do. But you, caused damage to his car. Can I see an estimate for the car, please? $649.07 to pull out the dent. Is that right?
That is correct.
That's what you owe him.
That seems
go
a
to
bit
school?
steep.
You go to school?
I do not. I work.
Really? Terrific. What kind of job do you have?
I work at BAE Container Solutions, making.
How old are you?
Missiles. I'm 18 right now.
You work full time?
No.
What do you do at the other part of the time?
Not work.
What do you do?
Stay at my house. I don't know.
Is that productive?
No, it's not. I can't have a full-time job yet.
How about going to school?
I choose not to.
Well, do you mow the lawn, clean the house, build a garage? What do you do?
I live in my own apartment with Andre and my other friend Justin.
Who pays the bills?
Me, Andre, and Justin.
With a part-time job?
Yeah, it's really cheap out there.
Great. Okay, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $649.07. That's all we're making.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Ashley Beischer claims the father of her child, Joshua Schmidt, owes for a $5,000 loan to buy a motorcycle. Joshua is countersuing, claiming Amy slashed his tires twice.
This used to be your boyfriend. When you were having a lapse in judgment while he was your boyfriend, you co-signed on a credit card for him to buy a dirt bike because he couldn't get it on his own.
Correct.
And the agreement was that he was to make the payments faithfully on that credit card.
That's correct.
He did make payments for a period of time on the credit card, and you separated. But he agreed to continue to make the payments on his bike, which he was using and which he took with him. Correct?
Correct.
Then there came a time that you and your fiancé, this would be fiancé, went to purchase a car. And you found out that your credit was awful. When you checked to ascertain why, according to your complaint, you found out that Mr. Schmidt had not been faithfully making on time the credit card payments on his bike. So what you want now is you want him to pay off that credit card so that hopefully you can get your credit restored.
That's correct.
Mr. Schmidt says that he was paying off the credit card until you slashed his tires.
That's ridiculous.
Shh. So that the fault is really yours for slashing his tires, causing him to lose his job. Have we joined the issue, Mr. Schmidt? Hello? You say in your answer it's really her fault.
Yes, I believe it is.
Perfect. I would like to see the date of the credit card loan and the history of payments.
I have that right here. This only goes back a year. They wouldn't.
Fine.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Schmidt, on what day, sir, do you claim your tires were slashed?
On May of 2006, I had 2 tires on my vehicle that were slashed. And then October of 2006, I had another tire slash on my car.
Just a second. After which incident, sir, did you lose your job?
The second.
So it's really the October of 2006 incident that you claim caused you to lose your job
Yes.
and fall behind in your payments.
Yes.
So it would be a fair statement, sir, that it wasn't until October of 2006 that you started making either late payments or skipping payments or anything else. Up until that time, they were okay.
Correct.
Okay, good.
Your Honor, can I point something out?
Shh. Maybe, if I need some help. Well, sir, in September of 2006, which was before your tire was slashed, you had a late fee of $39.
Okay.
That's before, right?
Yep.
And in August, which was before your slashed tires, you had a late fee of $39.
That would be after the first.
You just told me, sir, that you didn't lose your job until after the October incident.
Yes, but missing days of work.
No. Baloney. The issue was that after the October incident, you lost your job because of the tire slashing, causing you to fall behind in your payments. And you said to me prior to that time you were on time with your payments. So we now have August and September where you were late. Are you following me, Mr. Schmidt?
Yes, I am.
Who is this?
This is my witness, Jason.
Maybe. Jason. Now we have July. Late, Mr. Schmidt. And how much, sir, were you supposed to pay every month?
It's about $70.
So sometimes you didn't pay at all. And then you sort of doubled up the next month, right?
Yes.
You can't do that. You know you can't do that. Look at what we have here. A June late assessment. And you didn't make a payment. Whole month of June.
Is it possible, though, that me without a vehicle, how is it possible for me to get to work, to make money, to make payments on this?
What are you talking about? Who cares about whether you have a vehicle?
How do you get to work?
I don't care how you get to work. Walk, crawl, get your witness to pick you up. Now, let's go back to before the first incident, Mr. Schmidt, that you allege she slashed your tires, which you have to prove to me anyway. Let's go back to April now. Even you will know, Mr. Schmidt, that April comes before May,
yes.
right? How do you account for the late charge in April, Mr. Schmidt?
I don't.
Right. So the cock and bull story that you gave me is just that. You've been making late payments on this loan forever, because we also have one for March. So what do I care how you get to work? How did Abe Lincoln get to school? I'm waiting for an answer.
Walk.
That's what he did. He walked. And you remember from grammar school how many miles he walked to school every day?
No, I don't.
I think it was 5 miles each way, wasn't it, Bert? I think something like that. 5 miles each way. Do you understand, Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
When somebody else does a nice thing to you, what you're supposed to do is not be a pig. If you want to, you get the loan totally out of her name, and then if you want to screw up your credit, you do it. But you don't screw up her credit. Now, how much is left on the loan?
The grand total is about $6,700.
Well, the maximum I can award you is $5,000. You understand that? And the check will be directly to the credit card company which holds the loan.
Yes.
You're still responsible, as is he, for the remainder of it.
Right.
And he's responsible to pay it.
Right.
Who do you work for?
I actually just got a new employment job. It's DeLuca and Tobin.
Well, you would have no objection if they deducted the remainder of the balance, anything over $5,000 from your check, would you? Listen to what I just said. You owe the money. You have the dirt bike, don't you?
Yes.
The maximum I can give her is $5,000. That will be made directly to the credit card company. You still owe them about $1,600. Are you prepared to sign an authorization to allow them to take the remainder of the money at periodic payments out of your check?
Yes.
We will prepare that order and send it over to the drilling company and any other company that you might work for subsequently. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, let's get to the slashed tires. Did you slash his tires in May?
Absolutely.
You don't
not.
look like a tire slasher.
No.
You didn't see her slash your tires, did you?
No, I didn't.
Did you?
I did not see her, no.
Step up. Your name?
Jason.
Jason what?
Moyer.
How do you know her?
Through him.
When was the last time you had any contact with her?
While.
A while is not a month
Well,
a year.
don't talk to her, but I've seen her around town.
When was the last time you had contact with her?
Last fall or around there.
Tell me about that contact.
Well,
Look at me.
I was at the bar and I had walked by and
Bar? What bar?
Krieger's possibly.
What do you mean Krieger's possibly?
Well, it was either that bar or another one over there.
What time?
Probably 8 or 9 at night.
What date?
I'm not exactly sure.
What month?
October or November.
Mr. Schmidt, you sure you want me to do this to your friend? You sure you want me to do this to your friend?
Yes.
Be my pleasure, sir. You're walking by the bar that you don't know on a date that you don't remember in a year that perhaps you remember, and tell me what you believe you have that is germane to this case.
Well, I had heard her and her friends laughing about how his tires had been popped.
Yes?
Yeah, so I assumed she had something to do with it.
Oh, well, then you assume. Good. Do you have anything else that's germane to this case?
I did pick him up for work, too, a couple times.
I don't care about that. Sit down. You have anything else on the tire slashing, sir?
I just have a copy of, actually, no, I do not have
Good.
this on
Thank
me.
you very much. Your counterclaim is dismissed. You owe $5,000, and we will prepare an order for the remainder of the $1,600 to be deducted automatically from your check. Forward that to your employer with my love and hugs and kisses. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
25-year-old Aaron London is suing his former co-worker, Corey Bell, for defaming his character. Aaron claims Corey passed around a phony Craigslist ad.
Mr. London, did you and the defendant work in the same company?
Yes, at one point we did.
This is your complaint. You put an ad in Craigslist. I gather you went to school to become a massage therapist?
Yes.
And you put an ad on Craigslist for massages with your picture on it. Does it have your picture?
Yes.
Mr. Bell saw that ad on Craigslist. Is that right, sir?
I did.
And he thought it was really funny that you had posted that ad on Craigslist. So far, am I right?
Yes.
So he circulated it around the office. He sent it to a lot of other people. He thought it was funny, like people send jokes on the computer, and he sent it to a whole lot of other people. So you're suing him for defamation because you were very embarrassed.
Yes.
That's what this is all about. Mr. London, can I see the ad, please?
Yeah.
Okay. So this says, hello, ladies. Imagine casting your eyes upon this gorgeous whatever. It's got pictures of you, right? And it says, massage for big, beautiful women. Reply to personals. It looks like a number at Craigslist.org. And when people reply to this personal, they get you. Is that right?
Well, they get transferred to an email, yeah.
But it's you.
No, not in this particular case. There's a little bit more to the story that hasn't been revealed yet.
Sir, all I want to know
Yes.
is, it comes back to you.
Yes.
Now, is this the same ad that you sent to other people?
Yes.
You didn't modify it in any way?
No, didn't modify
You didn't
it.
change it, you didn't add words,
No,
you didn't...
no, I didn't. I just sent the link.
You sent the link and you said, take a look at this.
That's it.
That's not a crime, Mr. London. That's not a crime. That's not a lawsuit.
Yeah, there's a little bit more to it.
Well,
though.
give me 30 seconds, sir. That's what happened. You put this
Well-
ad that you didn't want to be circulated among your
No.
office mates. He circulated it among your office mates. If you didn't want it out there, you shouldn't have printed it.
Well, no, that actually isn't what happened. What happened is I work for the bank, and I also have a personal training and massage therapy business, like you said. And another kind of job side hustle that I do is I write personal ads for Craigslist. Also ads for businesses, whoever needs advertising.
Very nice.
who
I'm
lacks-
not an advertisement for you, sir. So you have a lot of businesses. You
And-
put this on Craigslist.
Yes, technically speaking.
That's what
But
we're here for.
that ad wasn't for me.
Who cares
I
who it
wrote
was
the ad
for?
for somebody else.
Who cares who it was for? Who cares? He doesn't know that. All he knows is this is the ad that he saw on Craigslist. He had every right to send it to whoever he wanted to send it to.
To my workplace? Well, he doesn't work in the workplace anymore.
I don't care. He could have sent it to the King of Siam. He could have sent it to me. He could have sent it to the President of the United States. He could have sent it to the Vice President of the United States or the Secretary of the Interior. It doesn't make any difference. It's out there in cyberspace, put on the internet by you, Mr. London. He could send it to whoever he wants. It's open. That's what it is. It's like sending an open letter.
To send it to my job for what? For
Who
laughs?
cares? If you don't want to be embarrassed, you don't put embarrassing things on the internet, Mr. London. If you don't want to be embarrassed, keep your private thoughts to yourself.
But the ad is not mine, is what I'm trying to tell you. Can I actually tell you?
Listen, Mr. London, I understand the nonsense what you wrote in your complaint. You said you were doing an ad for somebody else, and this was just a sample of what the ad would look like. But Mr. Bell doesn't know that because you posted this on Craigslist.
But how does he know I posted it?
It doesn't make any difference whether he knows you posted it or not, sir. It's here. It's out there in the world. Just like he sees it, anybody else can see it. He can send it to whomever he wants to send it. The truth of the matter is, you did post it on Craigslist. Did somebody tie you down and take these pictures?
No, those are sample pictures.
Those are pictures that
The pictures don't even match the ad, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Oh,
it's
yes,
not
they
even...
do. Oh, yeah, listen, Mr. London, you can tell me whatever you want to tell me, sir. This may have aggravated you. It may have upset you. It's a very good lesson. If you want to think privately, you go, I want to take it all in, and this is what I want to do. I want to keep these thoughts to myself. If you want to give massages to big, beautiful women, and that's what you're thinking about, and I'm going to see, but I'm not going to write it in a letter to my mother or my sister or my boyfriend or my girlfriend. I'm going to keep it to myself. Once you type it in the machine and you write send, it's over. It's out there. It's in Mexico and Burma and Jersey and Brooklyn. It's all over the place. And you can't complain about it if somebody says, this is really funny. I want to send it to everybody that I know who knows this jerk who posted this on Craigslist. So, Mr. London, grow up. You want to keep things to yourself? You want to talk into your pillow. Don't talk into your computer. Case is dismissed.
Stephanie Young says former live-in boyfriend Raymond LaChance owes for rent on their shared apartment. Raymond is countersuing for half of 1 year's living expenses.
I usually don't like to prejudge things, Mr. LaChance, but I think that you're not a very honorable person. According to the complaint that I read, sir, you and the plaintiff were involved in a relationship. You thought it was going to be a solid one. You signed a lease on an apartment, correct?
Correct.
And after 3 weeks, the thing didn't work out.
Correct.
And you agreed that she would leave, and you would stay in the apartment.
I was staying in the apartment, yes.
And when you were staying in the apartment, according to the plaintiff, you were staying with someone whose name was?
Jacob Cannon.
You were staying with someone whose name was Jacob. And when she left, according to her, Jacob was paying her half of the rent so that you weren't out any additional money. Then, according to the plaintiff, you told her you were moving out of the apartment. So far correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And she didn't want to ruin her credit, so she paid the rent, right?
Yes, ma'am.
When she goes to the apartment to get something, she sees all your stuff there because you had moved back in. But you let her pay the rest of the rent, believing that he was out of the apartment.
Yes, ma'am.
Your excuse is that you were forced to pay the rent yourself for 7 months because of her, and therefore you decided that she should pay the rest of the rent.
Her name's on that lease. She's just as liable as I am.
Mr. LaChance, in what month did you sign the lease?
We signed that in May of 2006.
And she left in May of 2006.
She left June 2nd, 2006.
6/2. Did she pay May's rent?
Actually, I paid it.
You mean you paid it alone?
I paid it alone, yes.
Why is that?
I had recently come into some money at about the end of April playing online poker. It's what we used to move out here. It covered all our moving trucks.
So you paid the May rent?
Correct.
Okay. Now, when did Jacob move in?
Jacob was with us from the beginning.
And how much was the rent in the apartment?
$569 a month.
And how much was Jacob paying?
He was not paying for any of the rent.
And how long did you let him stay?
He stayed until November.
So you're telling me you did not try to find another roommate between June and November because you were letting Jacob stay there rent-free?
Correct.
Now I'm going to respond to your statement.
Okay.
The reason you had to pay the rent is because your behind was sleeping in the apartment. Hers was not. And you had a roommate who should have been paying half the rent.
From July till November, he was never home. It was predominantly a storage space for his stuff. I helped him out every now and then.
Then
He
it's
was
your
never,
responsibility, sir, to find another roommate.
I was unable to find another roommate.
Show me what efforts you made to find another roommate.
I had friends at work.
Now let's go a little further, Mr. LaChance.
I don't
when
have
did you?
anybody
I'm
in
speaking
town.
to you. When did you call Miss Young and tell her that you were moving out of the apartment?
I was finally able to get a hold of her. It would have been end of November.
And you told her you were moving out in December?
Yes, ma'am.
And had you paid November's rent?
At that point,
It's not an answer, sir. Did you pay November's rent?
November was paid, yes.
And you moved out in December?
Yes, ma'am.
And you paid December's rent?
Yes, ma'am. It was actually a lot more.
So you called her and let her know that you were moving out in December, and if she wanted to keep her credit, she better start paying the rent.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you move back to the apartment, Mr. LaChance?
I moved back in January of 2007.
So you were out of the apartment for 1 month.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you call and tell her you moved back?
I was unable to get a hold of her.
Did you call and
I
tell
called.
her you moved back into the apartment?
I called, yes.
So that I assume you paid January's rent.
I did not pay January's rent.
I assume you paid February's rent.
I did not pay February's
That's why I told you when we started this case that I thought your behavior was abominable because it was dishonest, totally dishonest. Moving out is one thing. Saying, listen, I'm moving out of the apartment. Your name's on the lease, my name's on the lease. I lived here for the last few months, so I paid the rent. But now I'm moving out, just like you moved out. So I think if we want to both keep our credits intact, maybe you don't need it, because if you make a living doing online poker, maybe you don't need your credit intact. She does. So maybe we should just join forces, pay this lease out, whatever. But that's not what you did. You were able to contact her when you wanted to move out. But when you moved back and knew that she was going to be paying the rent and you were going to be living there rent-free, then you couldn't contact her. That's not very nice, sir. Now, when did you find out he was still living there?
I had the locks changed March 26th, and he called
So
me.
you paid December, January, February, and March.
Yes, ma'am. I also paid April.
And April. When did you go and check the apartment?
Well, I moved back to Florida, and the apartment's in Texas, so I couldn't just go there. And I said, I want to have the locks changed because I believe someone's still living there.
What made you think someone was still living there?
Because once he stopped paying the electric bill, it went back into the apartment's name. So they were getting the bill, and she was sending it to me. So if there's electric, someone's living there. So I said, I would like to have the locks changed. I paid the $25, and I got a call from Raymond that night saying,
I'm an authorized tenant in that place. There was no reason to have me
Mr.
locked out.
LaChance, don't you understand? You did something that was amoral, dishonest, dishonest. Don't you get it?
To me, dishonest was leaving 3 weeks into the lease.
No, Mr.
She committed
LaChance,
herself
that's
for a year.
ridiculous, sir. You weren't getting along. I don't even care why you weren't getting along. You were dishonest. You said, I'm moving out, and then you moved back without telling her. And the only time you contacted her again, and you were able to contact her again, you said, I couldn't call and tell her I was moving back because I couldn't contact her. So you were able to call her when you were moving out, and you were able to call her after she changed the locks. But you couldn't call her that critical time to tell her you were moving back into the apartment. She didn't have to pay the rent anymore.
I had left voicemails. I had sent
Listen to
messages.
me. Dishonest. What kind of work do you do?
I'm a waiter at a restaurant.
What else do you do?
I play online poker.
Dishonest. So you owe her for rent for 5 months. You also owe for the electricity while you were there. How much?
it was $2,100.
Now, it's my understanding from your complaint that you have a witness who is able to testify that for the first few months after you left, the rent was paid.
Yes, ma'am.
Call the witness.
I would like Jacob Knudsen to come out.
You swear to tell the truth in these matters?
Yes, sir.
State your name for the record, please.
Jacob Knudsen.
Okay. Do you live in the apartment with Mr. LaChance from June until December?
I left early November, but yes, June is correct.
When you were there in June, July, August, September, and October, those 5 months, did you contribute to the rent?
Most of the time. The only month that I was not able to contribute to my full share of the rent was the beginning of October, due to the fact that I lost my job.
I don't care why you didn't contribute in the month of October. You didn't contribute in the month of October. Yes. You paid rent in June?
Yes.
How much?
$285.
And you gave that to him in check or cash?
Cash.
That was June. What about July?
Yes.
You paid him in July?
Yes.
August?
Yes.
The full amount, to either
$285, yes.
What about September?
September, yes.
But not October?
No.
And what happened in November?
November, I was still out of work, and I contacted my mother and borrowed $400 from her in order to pay my half at the beginning of November. I have a Western Union voucher right here.
Can I see it, please?
Yes. The Western Union voucher that states that I got $400 from my mother in order to pay my half of the bills.
So if Mr. LaChance said that you were there and you stayed there sporadically,
I was not home very much, yes.
and that you did not pay any rent to him at all, would that be the truth or a lie, sir?
A lie.
And you were his friend?
Yes.
Who do you know longer?
I know them both about the same amount of time.
But you stayed with him
Yes.
when she left?
Yes, in order to help him with the bills.
Perfect. Good. Anything else you want to say to me? Anybody? Perfect. You owe her $2,100, Mr. LaChance, because you're a dishonest person. Because you're a dishonest person, I'm dismissing your counterclaim for half of the expenses for the time that it is clear that you had help with the rent, because that's what your counterclaim was mainly about. You will always come into contact with people, Mr. LaChance, in this life that are smarter than you are. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Goodbye.
26-year-old Noah Riskin is suing his ex-girlfriend, 22-year-old Lindsay Robinson, for her share of a backpacking trip through Europe. Lindsay claims the trip was a gift.
Mr. Riskin, Miss Robinson used to be your girlfriend.
Correct.
And it is your claim that you took a backpacking trip to Europe
Yes.
and you advanced some money for Miss Robinson, who was supposed to pay you back.
Correct.
Miss Robinson says the trip was a treat, your treat, and there was never any discussion about paying you back for the trip. And she is counterclaiming, she alleges you have some property of hers, a baby book, and she wants some punitive damages because she says you are stalking her. How long were you a couple?
For 7 months.
From when to when?
From mid-June, I believe it was, up until Valentine's Day.
And when was the trip?
We left on January 20th, returned February 19th.
So you were really a couple from June until January, because when I understand from reading your papers that when you took this trip, you each went your own way for a good part of the trip. You traveled independently. It wasn't a romantic getaway for the two of you, right?
Correct.
You didn't live together, did you?
We did.
You were living together.
Yes.
You had enough of each other from June to January. You wanted to be a little separated?
My intention of going to England and Scotland was to backpack, to go as many places as I could. Lindsay told me that she wanted to get a feel for life out there and stay in York for a week or two.
Wonderful. Terrific. How come you advanced the money?
Lindsay came up to me after the tickets were purchased, said that she had talked to some friends of her back home, and they told her that she needed roughly $1,000 per week, conversion rate being about 51 cents per pound. I'm sorry, $1 per 51 pence.
Oh, please, let's move on.
She did not have that money. I offered a loan.
I asked you what was said. Don't say I said to her, I will give you a loan. I want to hear what was said by her and what was said by you. Do you understand? And if it doesn't sound right, it's usually not true, Mr. Riskin. You get it?
I did.
Good.
So I went ahead and loaned her the $2,500.
Okay, Miss Robinson, since he can't get it together, I want you to tell me how it came about that you, A, took money from him for the tickets, and B, took money from him for spending. I think it was $2,500.
Yes.
Tell me how it came about.
He told me he was going. I told him I couldn't go with him. He asked me to go. I said
I want you to keep your voice up and speak slowly so that I can hear you.
Okay. He said he was going to Europe on a backpacking trip. I said, I can't go with you. I was going to use the month to move out anyway. He said, go with me, go with me.
You were going to use the what? I don't hear you. I want you to tell me how it came about that you took money from him for the tickets and took money from him for spending.
The month that he was going, I said I'm going to move out and see where it goes from there. So
Look at me.
I told him to let me know when he bought the tickets and I would make a decision because he kept asking and asking. So when I called him, he said he bought 2 tickets. I'd said no and he bought the ticket anyway. As far as money goes, I told him, well, I still don't have the money to go, and he offered to give me money for that too. We went to the bank together. He deposited it into my account.
What's wrong with you?
I listened to him, I guess.
No, you didn't listen to him, I guess. If you were not happy with him and if you were moving out, why did you take all that money from him?
Because...
Because why?
Because I thought he was doing a nice thing. He told me it was going to be a gift, and I believed him. And he told me he didn't want the money
That's not
back.
my question to you. I'm talking about being a moral person. Let's say I believe you, which I'm not sure I do. Let's say I believe you. Why would you, since you knew that he was anxious for you to go, since you knew that he was anxious for you perhaps not to break up this relationship that you had had for 7 months, why would you, knowing what you knew, take money from him? Because as soon as you came back, you broke up, right? Right?
Before we got back, we broke up.
Well, before, but you already got yourself there on his ticket, and you already had $2,500 of his money.
Yeah.
Well, that's wrong.
I know. I know. I thought it was something that it wasn't, and I should have listened to my gut. I thought we had an understanding, and we didn't.
What kind of understanding?
We discussed it before, and we had the understanding that it wasn't going to be romantic, that we were both going to go our separate ways, and that it was a gift. Because I told him I couldn't go over and over, and he insisted that he wanted to do something nice for me. He called my dad and told him about it. He told my best friends about it. Knowing that we would break up, he told them that. And so I thought we had an understanding.
Yeah, I want to tell you something. If it doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. What nice thing had you done for him?
I don't know. I was with him. I mean...
Well, he was with you. You mean that's a gift that you were with him?
We just had...
What kind of spectacular thing do you have that other people don't have?
Nothing.
Huh?
Nothing.
Nothing. I didn't think so. I mean, what do you bring to the table that millions of other people don't bring? Why in the world would you think that he would invest a whole bunch of money in taking you away if he didn't think that by doing that, perhaps you could rekindle your relationship?
That's what he did think. I know it is.
Then you did the wrong thing by taking it, knowing that it wasn't going to work.
I didn't... Okay.
How much was the ticket?
The ticket was $531.
And how much cash did you give her?
$2,500.
Okay. Forget the incidentals. You're lucky we're going where we're going. Do you understand? I'm going to hear your counterclaim. And I must tell you, Miss Robb, other things to do today. You want your baby book back?
I want my... Yes.
Why did you take her baby book?
The baby book was actually left. When she had moved out, she left everything that she did not want. A number of magazines, old shoes, etc. that she did not want. She just left them for me to clean up. I found them, and I did notify her that I had these items. She has not made any effort to pick them up for me, to send anyone to pick them up. I still have them.
What are they?
A baby book and a childhood photo album that I saved from the trash pile.
Why did you leave them?
That's not true. First of all, I got home and all my stuff was on the porch the same night we got back. He locked me out so that I couldn't get in and took my key. Everything that was on the porch, I took. Everything that wasn't mine, like the magazines, I left there, yeah, because he threw it all on the porch. So
on what date?
That would be the 19th, the night of the 19th, the night we got back.
What else?
He basically, after the breakup, I don't know what happened, but he became very different. He would show up at my work at least twice a week. And
yes? And what?
And just hover around. He would pull friends out of work and tell them about everything that happened between us, and...
Well, get over it. You owe him $3,031. Your counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Lonita White claims her late fiance's sister, Kimberly Swan, refuses to hand over her share of his remains. Kimberly is countersuing, claiming Lonita has been harassing her.
Miss White, your boyfriend, according to your complaint, was killed. He was shot recently, and the defendant is his sister. It is your claim that she promised to give you some of his ashes.
Yes.
He was cremated, and then changed her mind.
Yes.
Ms. Swan says that you are no relation to the family. You were not living with her brother. You were certainly not married to her brother, which would give you any legal status if you were his wife. His family has his ashes. They intend to keep them. That's what the case is about. Ms. Swan is counterclaiming for harassment of some sort. She'll tell me about that. When was your boyfriend killed?
February 15, 2006.
And how long was he your boyfriend?
For almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in July.
How old are you?
I'm 20.
Who is this?
My mother.
Just curious. If you had the ashes, what would you do with them?
I was going to keep it. That would have been the last thing I had left of my boyfriend. Well, my fiance, what she doesn't know, we were engaged.
I don't care whether you're engaged or not. Engaged is not a legal structure that entitles you to any property, any domain over any of his realty or his ashes or decision-making with regard to what happens to him. You're her mother?
Yes.
I assume you're here for moral support.
And more. Whatever I can support her with.
Okay. First of all, Miss Swan, how many siblings are there?
There is my oldest brother, and Marcus was my youngest brother.
You have parents?
Yes, my father is still alive, but my mother passed away 9 weeks before my brother did.
Okay, Miss White. So let me hear you.
Basically, the reason why I want the ashes in the locket is because that's what we had agreed to at the funeral home.
When did you agree? And with whom did you agree?
Kimberly Swan and me.
And what did you agree?
That I was to receive a keepsake, which is a locket, and an urn with his cremains in them.
Is that right?
The contract that we have, we agreed upon the funeral arrangements. They offered to buy his suit and the flowers, which they did. Everything else was taken care of by.
What I'm asking you is, did you make an agreement with her, either orally or in writing? Put your hand down. Either orally or in writing, to give her a locket with ashes from your brother?
Yes.
Okay. And what? Relax. Okay. This whole thing is ridiculous.
It is.
The whole thing is ridiculous. She's 20 years old. She shouldn't be walking around with a locket of the ashes of. You should be helping her get over this. She's supposed to move into the future. You're not supposed to help her live in the past. I am here to do a lawsuit. And the lawsuit is, was there an agreement between these two people for her to get a locket containing some of the ashes of her brother, and as part of perhaps a quid pro quo of that, did you pay for certain things for the funeral? You did pay for certain things for the funeral?
Yes.
So we did have an agreement. Now what I want you to tell me is why you reneged on the agreement.
When we first made the agreement, I was under a whole total different impression of why they wanted to help in the first place. I allowed for them to help, and this thing about her being the girlfriend, she was the ex-girlfriend. According to 2 days before he died, they had just broken up. But just because they broken up, that didn't mean I was shutting them out. She said they wanted to buy the suit and the flowers and things. I said, well, okay, I'll give you the locket. We have other family, you know, that want the ashes too. In this agreement...
Where's the locket?
Where's the locket?
Yeah.
The locket is at home.
Well, get it.
I'll get it.
That's what you made an agreement for. You made an agreement to give that to her. So far, I haven't heard a reason why you reneged on that agreement.
The reason why is because when he first got shot, Miss White had me under the impression that she wasn't there. But after the funeral, a lot of things have came to light. That she told me many lies about what happened to my brother. She said at first that she was not there, and now after everything is said and done with the funeral arrangements, her and her parents was in my brother's home when he got murdered. All lie after lie after lie.
All right. Miss One.
Yes.
You made an agreement with Miss White.
To give her the locket.
To give her the locket.
Not ashes, the locket.
Fine. But the locket contains ashes.
Yeah.
That's sufficient. These your brother's remains?
Yes.
All right. They're yours. They're yours. What do you Get over it. Your mother may be a co-conspirator with this lunacy, but, you know, I have limited patience with this. You're 20 years old. You have a whole lifetime to live. You're not supposed to walk around with ashes of your old boyfriend around your neck, whether he's deceased or whether you broke up with him. It's over. It's finished. You got to move on. But we're here to talk about contract. You had an agreement. And you have to fulfill that agreement. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Fine. And does that urn contain his ashes?
Yeah.
Bert, I want you to take that, please, and give it to me. Now, do you want me to keep these ashes in safekeeping until she gets the locket, or are you prepared to guarantee me that she will get it?
I'm prepared to guarantee her, but without all the harassment.
You are prepared to guarantee?
Locket, that's mine.
Just as, it's going to be mine in a second. Now, are you prepared to guarantee me that within 5 days she is going to get the locket?
Yes.
If she does not, we will send a marshal to pick this up. Do you understand that? There's no question about that. That's what I will do. I will send a marshal to your home to pick this up unless she gets the locket. Clear?
Yes.
Now you can return this to her, Bert, please. Thank you.
I
What?
have a letter from the funeral director.
I don't
stating
read
the
letters from a
agreement.
funeral director.
This is the agreement.
I don't read letters from the funeral director. Pay careful attention to me. Nobody is opening up that urn and splitting up the ashes. It's not going to happen, Miss White.
But can I explain what happened?
I don't care what happened. You are getting a locket with ashes of your boyfriend.
I understand, but it's a total of 3 urns with his ashes in there.
I don't care. This lady, listen to me, look at me. This lady cannot do that because she is not really in charge of what happens to her brother. Because the next person in the family who is really responsible for making those judgments is your boyfriend's father. Made the arrangements, but she's not the person who is authorized by law unless he had a will. Did he have a will? Of course not.
Not that I know. No.
Of course not. But you have an arrangement with her to get the locket. which she has, she's going to give that to you because she promises me she's going to give that to you. Correct?
Correct.
Otherwise, we're coming to get that.
No, she's getting
You don't want to give that.
No, never.
Fine. You want to say something?
Yes, ma'am, I do. First of all, I'd like to say that Kimberly has not been harassed.
I'm not asking you about that. I haven't
Okay.
gotten to the counterclaim yet.
Okay. About the funeral arrangements. My daughter was promised an urn and a locket. This is the letter from the funeral director stating the
With the
urn
agreement.
and the locket from Kimberly's own statement. That's all I'm saying. She's due more than just a locket.
Sit down.
No problem.
You didn't have on your listening ears. You
Yes,
should
ma'am,
have.
I did.
You should know. You didn't hear what I said. Now I'm prepared to hear your counterclaim. Go.
My counterclaim is for harassment, which they have. They have been harassing me ever since after the funeral. Once everything was done and over with, then I get the harassment before the urn shipment even came. This woman had the audacity to call me, yelling at me, telling me that I did not love my mother or my brother. I had just lost both of them. How dare she call my house like that? Harassing. And then she sent somebody to my job. They came to my house one time by themselves trying to retrieve the urn, not the locket, but the urn. They want the urn. And there's a lot of trash talking. Her mother threatened me. Her mother threatened me.
Let me say this.
Uh-huh.
And I want you to also listen.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes when you lose somebody that you love,
Yeah.
you're not listening, you're angry. And she's not listening either because her foot hasn't stopped moving for a second. Sometimes when you lose somebody that you really care about, and there's an overwhelming sadness, a much easier emotion to deal with than sadness is anger. And you always have to have someone who's going to be the target of that anger. It's much easier to deal with than the emotion that you really should be dealing with, everybody feeling sad. Because the truth of the matter is, that means nothing. You lost your, listen to me, you lost your mother. Was she cremated or buried?
She was cremated also.
Okay. You have her ashes?
Yes, I do.
And you keep them at home?
Yes, I do, right next to this one.
Having lost parents, I know. Listen to me. Comes a time when you go very often to the cemetery to visit because it makes you feel good. I used to go every week.
Yeah.
Then in time, as time settles in, you go less frequently, which is a normal and, quite frankly, very healthy thing to do. I think maybe for you, let me finish. You're not listening.
Okay,
You want to
I'm
talk
listening.
so badly.
I'm listening.
You want
I'm
to talk so
listening.
badly. For you, it may be important for you to have the ashes of your mother and your brother in your house. I think it's dumb for her to have them because, you see, you will never replace your mother, and you're never going to replace your brother. She's going to replace this boyfriend. Now, the ashes that she so desperately wants today are going to be an annoyance 5 years from now because she really doesn't know what she's going to do with them. Does she give them to her mother to hold? Mother say, I don't want them. My husband certainly doesn't want to see him in my house. My kids are going to look and say, Mommy, what is that? So there's a reason for you to keep those if that's what you do. But there's an anger that is an emotion that you can actually grab onto. You got to get over the anger. I'm not angry. Good. You got to get over the anger. So does your mother. If something happened to you, I guarantee you, your mother would not give your ashes to a boyfriend.
That's right.
No way. That's right. Put your hand down, scratch all you want. But that wouldn't happen. That's really what they're saying. They don't want to share the brother's remains with you, other than the locket which she is prepared to give you, correct? That's right. Perfect. That's what you're going to get within 5 days. Your harassment, forget it. Get over the
about my
anger.
case?
Good. That's all.
18-year-old Christina Harmon is suing her father, William Tolan, for an unpaid loan. William claims Christina broke the terms of their agreement.
Ms. Harmon, this is your father?
Yes.
According to what I read in the complaint, you made a loan to him.
Yes, I did.
Your father does not deny that you made a loan to him. He says, however, that as a condition of his repaying the loan, you agreed to stay in school and stay off of drugs. And he says that you didn't. So he's not repaying the loan unless he can put it in some sort of an account where you can't touch it until you're 21. There's a little bit of background here. Background, according to you, is that you didn't have much of a relationship with your dad for most of your growing up. You lived with your mother. Your father at some point was incarcerated for an extended period of time. He got out of jail. You developed a relationship with him, moved in with him for a short period of time. You got a settlement of some sort.
Yes.
How much was the settlement?
It was for $8,960 or $76.
$9,000.
Yes.
And it was at that time that he asked you for the loan.
Yes.
When was that, Miss Harmon?
He asked me for it November 28th of 2005.
Were you living in the house with him at
Yes,
that
I
time?
was.
What did he say he wanted the money for?
He wanted $2,350 to buy a new car and $600 to go see my stepmother's oldest daughter in Medford, Oregon.
That's not true. I never borrowed $600 for a trip from her.
Well, how much did you borrow in total from her?
$2,150. The vehicle was actually, so Christina had a car. She had the money to do driver safety. We'd already set it up with
Just a second,
school.
Mr. Tolan. How much did you take out of your account and give to him?
I took out $2,900 out of my account. I wrote a check to my bank.
Let me see.
It's this one right here.
It says $2,900, sir.
That's not what she gave me. She gave me $2,100, and my wife can attest
In a
to
check
that.
or cash?
Cash.
Okay. Let's say I believe you.
Okay.
Did he also give you a car?
No, he was going to give me the car, but then he decided not to, and he was going to sell it to my cousin once he got his taxes back.
Just a second. Did you ever have possession of that car?
No, I did not.
And title in your name?
No, I did not.
Okay.
That's not true, Your Honor.
She had title in her name?
She didn't have title in her name
Then
because
she didn't get.
she had the keys to the vehicle. They were
I don't
given
care
to
if
her
she had,
when she got it.
Listen to me. I don't care if
Okay.
she had keys to the vehicle. It's not her car. Where's the car now?
The car's in Salem right now.
With whom?
With a friend of mine.
That's not her car.
No, it's not now because she didn't hold up her part of the bargain.
Listen to me. When you asked your daughter for money, what were the conditions?
The conditions were that she stay in school.
No,
and not
you're
do
asking
drugs.
for money. You're the borrower. You don't set the conditions of the return of the money, Mr. Tolan. I don't think you understand how stupid your defense is. You say to your daughter, I want money. Let's say $2,100. Let's say $2,100. I'm not there yet, but let's just say $2,100. And you say, I'd like to borrow $2,100 because I want money to buy a car. And I will pay you back if you stay in school and if you don't do drugs. If I were your daughter, I'd say, take a walk. What kind of ridiculousness is that? I'm doing you a favor by loaning you $2,100, and you're going to set the conditions on repaying me? That sounds stupid. Doesn't that sound stupid to you? Does it sound stupid to you?
It sounds very stupid to me if that was the story, but she came to me asking for the vehicle, and I told her I would give her the vehicle on conditions because I was trying to teach her to be responsible.
I'm not talking about the vehicle. I'm talking about the $2,100 for your car.
I understand that. I'm talking about my daughter's life. I'm passionate about drug and
Listen,
alcohol
I'm
use,
passionate about the
and
truth.
I'm not going to let her
Listen
die.
to me.
So you'd give her $2,100 to go kill herself with?
Mr. Tolan, listen to me. I've had 5 children that I raised.
I understand that.
And I guarantee you, sir, I have not been in prison. And I guarantee you that I've been in my children's lives from the time that they took a breath. Okay? So I can guarantee you that I'm as passionate about my children's welfare as you.
Okay.
So what I'm saying to you is it doesn't make sense for you to say to anyone, including your daughter, can I borrow some money, but I'm only going to pay you back if you do this. If you get a job, if you stay in school, if you break up with this boy, if you stop hanging out with this person. Otherwise, I'm not going to borrow the money from you.
Okay, let's put it this way.
No, don't. I don't answer your questions.
Okay.
I don't answer your questions. What you're saying to me sounds stupid. And if it sounds stupid, it's not true. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,900, because that's what you took. That's all.
22-year-old Crystal Rivera is suing her ex-boyfriend, Robert Sipe, for a loan to travel to Florida. Robert says he wanted to help with the hurricane relief.
Miss Rivera, you're a student?
Yes, ma'am.
How old
Actually,
are you?
I just graduated.
You just graduated
Yes.
from college?
Yes.
How old are you?
22.
Mr. Sipe, what about you?
Oh, I'm a salesman.
How did you meet him?
I actually met him on my 21st birthday party.
Somebody brought him?
Yes.
And according to you, you started to date Mr. Sipe
Yes, ma'am.
and loaned him $1,250. At some point, he did pay you back $400, leaving a balance of $850. Mr. Sipes says, while he acknowledges that you gave him $1,250, he says that's exactly what it was. It was a gift, and he only gave you $400 because he wanted to help you out, right?
Correct.
Well, since we're getting rid of the issue of whether or not the money was passed from Ms. Rivera's hands to yours, why don't you tell me, Mr. Sipe, when did you take this money from Ms. Rivera?
A couple weeks before I was leaving for Florida.
When was that? I don't know when you were leaving for Florida, sir. It's
Uh,
not. It wasn't on my social calendar.
I understand that. I completely understand that. In August, early September.
What's the matter? They're too nasty for you?
No, that was delightful.
Go ahead.
Yeah, she offered me, well, she claimed that she offered me $850.
Listen to me, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Where do you live?
In Arkansas,
And what were you going to Florida for?
to clean up the hurricanes, relief.
You were going to volunteer?
No, I had a contractor. I was trying to get down there.
So you had a job there.
Yes, ma'am. Well, in the process.
And what did you need money for?
Travel expenses, hotel expenses, food expenses.
Had a job.
At that point, no, I didn't.
Well, neither did she. She was a student.
That was a gift that she gave me. I don't know her business.
How long did you know her before you asked her for this money?
Maybe a week.
Shh, shh, shh.
She offered it to me.
What did you tell her to inspire her to offer you this money, Mr. Sipe?
I was just telling her my story that I needed to get down there, and she offered it to me. I wasn't inspiring her, nothing.
You must have been inspirational.
I don't know
for her to
what
give
it
you the
was.
money.
She offered it to me, and I said thank you.
Well, Mr. Sipe, let me suggest this to you, sir. You are almost 10 years her senior. She's a student. You're an adult. You're supposed to be employed. You take money from a student who has no money, because according to her, this was money that her parents had given her for books. She went and sold her books in order to give you this money because
I
you had to
understand
get.
it
I'm
was
speaking.
government
Listen
money.
to me. I'm
Yes.
speaking. When
Yes,
my
ma'am.
mouth
Yes,
moves,
ma'am.
yours doesn't.
Yes, ma'am.
So that would suggest to me that something is off with your moral compass. Taking money from somebody that you met for a week, knowing that she doesn't have a lot of money.
I
I'm
don't know.
speaking.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm telling you, that would suggest to a stranger that you're a taker. That's a given. You're a taker. If she, in fact, offered you this money and just said, I want you to take it, it's a gift. So now I want you to tell me, what epiphany did you have at some point? What finding of religion did you have that inspired you to give her $400?
Good deed.
He's cute.
It's the truth,
He's
though,
cute.
ma'am.
He's cute.
It is the
To
truth.
somebody, but not to me, Mr. Sipe.
That's fine, but it is
Not
the truth.
to me, sir.
It is the truth, though.
Let us say that I believe you for a moment, that she was smitten with you, because that would be the only reason she would give you money. If she wasn't romantically interested in you, she wouldn't have given you the money, right?
Well, I wanted to help the people in the hurricane.
You wanted to help the people in the hurricane?
Well,
she's also mentally challenged. I mean, I can understand helping the people in the hurricane. Send them $1,250. Don't give it to him.
Right.
He didn't even end up going.
Right.
Right?
Correct.
Take your money and send it to the Red Cross.
I've actually started a nonprofit corporation to help the people from
Well,
the
that's
previous
fine.
hurricane.
He's not a nonprofit organization. Nowhere to send your money. In what month did you give her $400?
I would say in October, November.
Had she called you and asked you for the money?
No, ma'am. I just offered it to her.
A good deed.
A very good deed. Yes, it is.
We're going to have another good deed.
And then
Judgment
a
for the
week-
plaintiff in the amount of $850. That's all.
Tanya Blishak is suing her former co-worker, Julianne Rouse, for startup money to sell Mary Kay Cosmetics.
Ms. Blishak, according to what I've read in your complaint, you and the defendant worked together in a hair salon period of time. And in addition to your regular work, you were making some money on the side selling Mary Kay Cosmetics. You tried to get Ms. Rouse to become a representative for Mary Kay and claimed that you sold her a quantity of product. You put it on your credit card because she asked you to, with the understanding that she would pay the credit card bill. She paid some, but not all, and you want the balance. Ms. Rouse says that you sort of pressured her into becoming a representative. She paid you back a total so far of $1,400 for the product that was purchased, according to her, without her consent. She stopped selling the product. She still has 6 boxes of it at home that you're welcome to have because she says she's paid enough.
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I sold it for about a month.
That's a fib that you just told me, because you told me a moment ago that after a month, so that means that you were at least selling the product for 2 months.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tanya Blishak says former co-worker Julianne Rouse owes for a loan to buy Mary Kay Cosmetics. Julianne says the makeup was forced on her.
When did you start to sell Mary Kay Cosmetics?
September of 2001.
And what percentage do you get of what, for instance, Miss Rouse would purchase from Mary Kay?
At the time, I did get 13% on her order, but I would like to state...
Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, I just want to say that I explained to her completely and full detail that she does not have to order any inventory whatsoever. It is for her benefit to have inventory if she wants it, so that she can give it to her customers when they buy it from her. That's completely her option. She doesn't have to do it, and she chose to do one of the big ones.
When did she purchase this product?
In April of '04.
And how much did she purchase?
She purchased a $2,400 order.
Now, tell me under what circumstances you financed her order of $2,400.
It was with my credit card.
Why?
She had been a customer as well before, and I had no problems with her financially. She paid her orders, there was no problems. And she wanted to get started with a business. She said she didn't have a credit card and you can't pay cash. And she wanted to do it, and I told her that I would help her out. She was going to pay me back the next month, and we were going to be done with this.
From where was she supposed to get $2,400?
I don't know.
Who do you live with?
My husband.
Have any children?
Yes.
How many?
1.
How old?
7 months.
And you were working full-time?
No, ma'am.
Part-time?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
I wasn't working for a while. I was going to school, and then I went back to work part-time at the salon. And at that time, my fiance at the time were living with roommates. We didn't have our own place.
So when you purchased this stuff, Miss Rouse, it was your intention to make this a part-time job?
Well, I was working part-time at the salon, and then I left there right about the same time this all happened to work full-time at a travel agency.
So was it your intention to work part-time selling Mary Kay Cosmetics?
At that time, yes.
Who selected the product that was purchased?
Miss Blishak did.
Without your input?
I didn't input. She did it online, and she ordered the things that she thought I needed at the time. And then about 5 weeks later, I needed different products. I had to place another order on my own to get the products that I needed for my clients.
So you were, in fact, working?
For a little bit, yes.
So why didn't you finish paying her for the product?
And in the beginning, I did not want to sell the Mary Kay. She kept asking me to join. I thought if I joined it, it would be over and done with after the $115. So then after this, I decided that I would try it out.
Well, that's what she's talking about.
And she told me when she did this that I would be able to pay her back in a month because you would make so much money selling these products within the first month, as she did. At the time, I couldn't do that. I was working full-time.
Well, that happened later. Miss Rouse.
Within the same week, it happened,
Rouse,
ma'am.
listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
There's something about buyer's remorse, which means that at the time you thought it was a good idea, and all of a sudden it didn't look so good after it was done, as opposed to someone who fraudulently sells you something. I'm not getting the sense that Miss Blishak sold you anything fraudulently, especially since you ordered more product a month later.
After the
and you paid her $1,400. She paid you $1,400? When did you stop paying her?
August was the last payment I gave her.
And you were paying her prior to that time because you were selling product?
I sold it for about a month.
Or more? Because that's a fib that you just told me, Miss Rouse. Because you told me a moment ago that after a month you ordered more product to sell to your customer. So that means that you were at least selling the product for 2 months.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Sounds to me, Miss Rouse, as a case of you didn't plan on getting pregnant, you planned on working full-time, you planned on selling this part-time. It all didn't work out because you left a part-time job, went to a full-time job, then you got pregnant, then you stopped working. Are you working now?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. You better start selling some Mary Kay Cosmetics because you owe her some money. How much does she owe you with interest on your credit card?
$1848.02.
Can I see that, please? Why does she owe you $1848? What kind of interest do they charge you on your credit card?
It was 12.9.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay, good. You have 6 boxes of product left?
Yes, ma'am. I have a list of everything I have.
Good. You better start selling it, Miss Rouse. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,848. That's all.
Parties are excused when they step out.
Christine Bergdahl says Ex-roommate Steven Sanchez owes for 2 months' rent and a security deposit.
Mr. Sanchez, did you have trouble finding the courthouse today, sir?
Not at all. Found it just fine.
Did you get here on time?
Yes, I did.
Did you?
15 till.
Huh?
No.
Well, what happened, Miss Bergdahl? Why couldn't you find the courthouse?
Because I've been under the weather a little bit, and it took me a while to get here today.
Are you sick?
Yes, ma'am.
What's the matter with you?
Well, I've been working for Red Cross in Louisiana, and since I've been back, I've had a cold, and I haven't recovered from it yet. And I haven't had a home to go to. So I've been moving from place to place with my luggage, and it's took a toll on my health.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
Let me go into what the lawsuit is. I'm going to give you plenty of opportunity to speak, Mr. Sanchez. Ms. Bergdahl, this is what your lawsuit is about. You claim that Mr. Sanchez moved into your apartment with you. You lived together as roommates for about 6 months. He was supposed to pay half the rent. He didn't, but that's not what you're suing him for. You're suing him because you moved out in September. You told him to move out in September. He didn't move out in September. Your name is the only one on the lease. He didn't pay September's rent. He was still there in October. He didn't pay October's rent, as a result of which you lost your deposit on the apartment, which you claim is $1,000. You want Mr. Sanchez to pay the $1,000 that you lost in the deposit that the landlord kept, plus the $1,400 for rent for the month of September when you moved out.
Yes.
And now Mr. Sanchez wants to say something. So within the context of this case, sir, what do you want to tell me?
I was just going to say I've been under the weather, too, as you can hear in my voice.
Felt better
Made
in
it
my
on
day,
time,
too,
so
Bird.
that's all
I
I'm
know
gonna
used
say.
to be better 10 years ago. You wake up, you have aches, you have pains, but when you have to get someplace, you get there, and you get there on time.
Correct.
Anything else you want to tell me right now? No, good. All right, Miss Bergdahl, when did he move into your apartment?
He moved into my apartment at the end of January of 2005.
And how did you know each other?
We had mutual acquaintances before, and we slowly became friends.
And you moved out September what?
September the 9th.
Did you pay September's rent?
Yes, I did.
When did you move out?
Actually,
Is not an answer.
I am still residing there, and I'm in the process of working with the management company right now on that place.
How much rent did you pay in September?
$400.
Is that right? He paid September. He paid half of. He did not pay $400. He paid $362 for half the rent in September.
What was the whole rent? What's the whole rent?
$725, ma'am.
You're still there?
That is correct.
And you're working with the management company to take over her lease?
That is correct.
Then you have to give her $1,000 if she can prove to me that she gave them $1,000. Show it to me.
Of that 1,000, I did participate with 300 of that 1,000.
Steven Sanchez owes everybody money. I'm the last person.
Just a second. Shh. Mr. Sanchez, just show me that you gave her $300.
And that's the problem. My work schedule does not allow me to gather up information, and that's the problem that I have. So
Well, you want to know what the problem you have?
it's bad. It's a bad problem. I'm
Glad
sorry.
you said that, sir. What kind of work do you do?
I'm
Almost not an answer.
a manager at a car dealership, and it requires me to be there from open
You're
to
a
close.
manager at a car dealership.
Correct.
What kind of car dealership?
Fords.
Bird comes in with his lovely wife, Felicia, and wants to buy a Ford. And they come to you. You sit down, you work out a contract.
Correct.
And do you sell anybody a car? Do you order a car unless they do all the paperwork and sign all the paperwork? I know I've bought cars.
At
There's usually a
times.
ton of paperwork, right?
Correct.
So you know that when you're buying a car, you have to be prepared to do a lot of paperwork. When you come to court, you don't come with a smile, Mr. Sanchez. You come with evidence, sir. So I don't know what that piece of paper is that you have with you, but if you claim that you gave her $300, then you bring proof of that.
Correct.
All right. So you have to give her $1,000. That's numero uno, despite the fact that she's late, without a legitimate excuse. Now let's deal with the rent. Did you pay October's rent? She wasn't there. You were there. Did you pay October's rent?
The situation with that was when she went to her retreat.
Just a second.
I'm leading up to the situation
I
at
don't
hand.
listen. Life is short. I'm
Correct.
getting older by the minute. I'll let you expand on the answer if I need it. Did you pay October's rent?
No, I did not, because
Okay,
I wasn't allowed to.
Just a second. Did you live there?
Can I say something,
Just-
please?
Did you live there?
Yes, I did.
Fine. Now, who do you think is responsible for October's rent?
She's on the lease.
Right, and she wasn't living there.
Correct.
You were living there.
Correct.
Just a second. You know, you made me nervous. Something is going in my eye. Bird, look over here. Do you see? Oh, I got it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Does this look all right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're doing good.
Thank you. All right. Listen to me very carefully, sir. The landlord is not related to you in any way. The landlord, I assume, is not related to Miss Bergdahl in any way. Is that right?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So we have to craft this order so that the landlord gets paid their money. What you're going to tell me, Mr. Sanchez, is that you were not permitted to pay the landlord rent because you were not on the lease. Correct. Is that what you were going to tell me? You see what a quick learn I am, Mr. Sanchez? That doesn't mean that nobody expects Miss Bergdahl to pay the rent, do you? She wasn't there. She wasn't there in October. Did you pay November's rent?
No.
This isn't hurricane relief, sir. You're living in a place you're supposed to pay rent. So you make out the check to her and you say, pay the rent. Or you make out the check to the landlord, give it to her. She'll get it to the landlord because she's on the hook for rent. The landlord's not going to let you off the hook. Not going to let her off the hook. Somebody's going to pay October and November's rent.
Okay. I offered to pay time and time again. What the management company said is we need to talk to our lawyers and then we'll get back to you. I went and talked to her, I guess her name was Kathy, and she said that you need to vacate the premises. At that time, I was in the middle of a move going to LA to work for another Ford company, and I decided to stay in town because I got another job offer where I reside because it's closer to family. So instead of opening up another lease for a couple of months, I offered to pay 2 months of rent to stay there. What they had told me was, I didn't even know you were there.
So you were a very good tenant. You were very quiet.
I was very quiet.
You have to pay rent. People pay rent, a mortgage, rent, housing allotment. That's what you do. You don't expect her to pay for you, do you?
No, not at all.
Perfect.
I've offered to pay her also, and she denied it.
All right.
Can I say something?
No, do me a favor. I don't listen to tardy people. 700.
He has been asked multiple times by me and the management company to pay something because the person that actually hasn't received any money in 2 months, and he has refused to pay. We've even been over to the house. The landlord even went over to the house requesting money from him, and he didn't hand her
They did not
anything.
come over to look at the house. They came over to assess the situation of what happened and why she left.
No, why didn't you pay him then?
Shh. I'm getting to that. The whole situation of what
Listen
happened.
to me. If it was all very nice, you wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be able to have such a pleasant afternoon.
The living situation was great. Okay, there was no problem. There was just one little issue of a coworker that she lived with that we became.
Listen, I don't care. I have other things to do. I don't care why she left. She left, and if you would have packed your bag and gone at the same time, then she would be stuck with her lease because it's her lease. You chose to live there, sir, for your own convenience. And you're a big boy. How old are you?
Old enough to know.
Is it a secret?
Yes.
It's a secret? How old you are?
33.
If I were 33, I would shout it from the rooftops.
You look 33, by the way.
That's very nice of you.
You're
It's not going to help you one bit. You owe her $1,000 for the security deposit because you're staying in the apartment. You owe the landlord $1,450. 2 checks. One to her, one to the landlord, $1,450. Mill Creek Management, Inc. is who the check gets made payable to. Thank you very much. That's all.
Steve Ramirez claims former live-in girlfriend Jennifer Flynn refuses to return his belongings. Jennifer is countersuing for money owed and for an assault.
Mr. Ramirez, you and the defendant dated and, I gather, lived together for a brief period of time. You had one child with you at the time?
Yes.
And it is your claim that she, after an argument, threw you out with your child and kept your property. The defendant says that when you left, you owed her some money, and instead of the money, you said to her, just keep my stuff. I don't want it. You know, sell it. She's also counterclaiming because she says you assaulted her. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. When did you move in with Miss Flynn, Mr. Ramirez?
She moved in with me about 4 months after we met to my home that I was renting.
Was that you moved in together?
This year.
2007.
2005.
When was it?
2005.
And when did you move into the apartment that you left?
We moved in at the end of July of 2006.
And you have one child. How
Yes,
old is
ma'am.
that child?
She's 8.
And you have custody of her?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what happened when you left, sir.
Well, when she kicked me out, me and my daughter, she just kicked me and my daughter out.
Well, tell me about that day.
While we were talking, and I have an invention.
You have an invention?
Yes, ma'am, that me and my brother came up with. and Miss Flynn stated that she wanted 10% of something that doesn't exist. And I said, no, how am I going to give you 10% of something I don't even have? So that's where it started, and that upset her, like, just totally upset her. And she said, what? And I said, how am I going to give you 10% of something I don't even have? I can't.
What do you mean you don't even have? You had an invention you just told
Well,
me.
yes, ma'am, but it's just in the process now. I haven't.
Well, I assume that what she was saying is that in exchange for whatever financial contribution she was making, were you working at the time?
Yes, ma'am.
You were both working?
Yes.
Well, I assume she was saying that because you lived together as a couple, she wanted 10% if anything happens with this invention. And you said, no, I don't think you're entitled to that. So you're entitled to say that to her, Mr. Ramirez. If she wants 10% or 50%, then you got to get married. Then that's what the state does. The state says, well, then property becomes community property or joint property. But you're not married, she's not entitled to anything. So you're absolutely within your rights to say, I don't want to give you 10%. Is that when she threw you out?
Yes, ma'am.
What did she say?
Get out of my house. You and your daughter can get out of my house.
And is that what you did? You left?
Yes, ma'am.
And you left your things?
Yes, ma'am.
What things did you leave there?
I have a list of things, numerous things.
They better be big items, sir, because I don't get involved with saucepans and dishes.
That's just some of the things. That's not the personal belongings, like pictures and...
I'm going to cross certain things out here, Mr. Ramirez, that I think are ridiculous. Charbroiled barbecue with 2 propane tanks. Prairie dining. Did you purchase all of these things, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you purchase them while you and the defendant were living together?
No, ma'am. Prior.
You had these things?
Everything on that list is prior to our relationship.
Let us take a look at this. Are any of those things that you purchased while you were living together?
Probably some DVDs and CDs.
Other than that, those are all his things, correct?
Yeah.
You have to return them to him, all of them. Do you understand?
Oh, there's no neon picture.
Okay, cross it off.
There is a neon picture, Your Honor.
Cross it off. Okay, good. Inconsequential, all of those things within 5 days, sir. You arranged to have the movers there to pick them up. Isn't that nice?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now, let's get to your counterclaim. You say he owes you money.
Yes.
And he assaulted you. Go.
Actually, the invention, the alleged invention that he has is something that my doctor asked him to make, and I actually have a picture of it.
What does that have to do with anything?
That's why I had asked him for 10% of his alleged
You're entitled
invention.
to ask.
So
he's entitled to say no.
My counterclaim is what he owes me when he was not working for October, November, and December.
You were not working October, November, December?
October and November, Your Honor.
And December. Well,
just a second. Were you working in December, sir?
No, ma'am.
So you didn't contribute to the household for those 3 months?
No.
So how much money do you owe her?
I don't feel I owe her anything.
Why not?
That's the way relationships work, Your Honor.
Why? Did she work all the time?
No, she doesn't work.
She doesn't work at all?
No.
How do you support yourself?
I receive disability and Social Security.
What's the nature of your disability?
I have a blood condition that affects my ankles to where I get a lot of blood clots, and I'm in the hospital a lot. I get a lot of infections.
So you were supporting the household and paying the mortgage on your Social Security? You have children?
I have 1 child.
How old?
9. Also
Just a second. Was your arrangement when you moved in that you would pay half the mortgage, sir?
No, ma'am.
What was your arrangement?
Just that we're going to move in together and help each other out as a relationship does.
No. How did you handle the finances, Mr. Ramirez?
Well, I was working prior, and then I just...
When you were working prior, how did you handle the finances?
We just share them.
How did it work? You came home and you all both deposited checks into a joint account?
No, ma'am.
Well, how did it work? I want to know.
I would hand her cash and to pay the bills.
How much?
It just depended on how much the bills were at the time.
Mr. Ramirez?
Yes.
How much would you hand her each month?
Maybe $1,200.
Each month?
No, not each month.
Well, that's
When
what
I
I'm
could.
asking you, sir. You don't play with me, Mr. Ramirez.
Yes.
You think you're smarter than I am?
No, ma'am.
What else?
He also owes me for his vehicle insurance from May to January, which I do have invoices for.
Just a second. Why did you pay in May? He was working in May.
Because I had added him to my insurance because he couldn't get it on his own. And with the money that he was giving
No, my
me-
darling. Listen to me. In May, he was working, so he was giving you money. In May, June, July, August, he was working. He was giving you money.
Not
you
enough.
Paid who cares? That's not something I'm getting involved with. So far, he owes you $1,800, period.
Okay.
What's next?
So he owes me then $120 for vehicle insurance for October, November, and December, ma'am, when he was not working.
October, November, and December. You had a car?
Yes, ma'am.
She was paying the insurance?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. And you weren't paying
Helping,
anything?
And
but-
January.
Yeah.
Just, you weren't paying anything?
Not a penny.
Okay. How much a month?
$40 a month.
Okay. So it was 3 months or 4 months?
4.
160. What's next?
The satellite dish was a household bill.
Forget it. You still have the satellite dish, no?
I still have it.
Keep going.
I'm also countersuing for the assault.
Well, let me hear about the assault.
Okay. One night I was just in my house, in my room with my friend.
When?
Approximately the 14th of January.
After he had left?
After he had left. He came back into my house. He still had a key because his stuff was there, so I didn't change the locks. I changed my alarm code. I thought that was good enough. He came in anyhow. I had my room closed. When I opened my bedroom door to see who had come in, he was already right there. And he asked me
What were you doing there?
I went to pack my daughter's things in her room so I can...
Did you call her first?
No.
Why not?
I have a key.
You have no right to do that. You're not a tenant there. You hadn't paid rent. You have no right to go
Yes.
in.
When I received my first check, after I got my job, I handed her my first check.
No.
What date?
You didn't.
What date?
Like January,
No.
first week of February.
You mean after you moved out, you handed her a
Oh,
check?
no. No, Your Honor.
Baloney, Mr. Ramirez. Baloney. You had no right being there. None. So what happened?
He said, "Who's in there?" And I told him, "None of your business." He pushed the door open like this, and the door hit me in my face because I was on the other side of the door. I proceeded to push the door and tell him that he wasn't going to come in, that it was none of his business. And with his strength, he pushed me into a dresser that I had by the door, which bruised my
Why
arm.
did you do that, sir?
I did
I
not, Your
have
Honor.
pictures of my lip where the door busted my
Can
lip.
I see it, please?
And my witness was in my room. When he saw that it was just my friend Diana, he left. I told him I was calling the police. I had the police on the phone, and
Temper, temper,
I
Mr.
also
Ramirez.
have a statement from
Temper,
my-
temper, Mr. Ramirez. Ever been arrested?
Yes.
Domestic violence?
Yes.
What do you have to say for yourself, sir? There's no question in my mind that you entered the house, that was a trespass, and if you assaulted her, that rises to the level of burglary. Do you understand? You should tell me, did you lose your temper?
No, Your Honor.
Well, tell me what you did. There's no question that you hurt her.
I entered the room, the house, in intent to gather my daughter's things from her room and some of my belongings. And then she came out. She said, "What are you doing here?" She get in my house. I handed her the key, and I left.
No.
Didn't push the door open?
He
No,
didn't
Your
give me a
Honor.
key.
Didn't push the door?
No.
Didn't cut her lip?
No.
You have a police report?
No, ma'am, I didn't let the police come. So, but he was not there to get his daughter things. He called me later after he left and said, "Why did you do that? I just wanted to sit down and hang out with you and talk. I thought we could talk." And I said, "Why would you think that?"
He doesn't think that you're allowed to say no.
Well, I am saying no.
Yes.
And,
I think maybe
yeah.
he gets that now. Want to step up? Tell me your last name.
Kalish?
Ms. Kalish, you were there on the evening that Mr. Ramirez came into the house?
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
We were in her room just watching TV, and we heard the front door open. She got up to see who entered the house, and before she got to the door, he was already standing there. She opened the door, and he pushed the door open and pushed her.
Did you say anything about calling the police?
She did call the police. I was there. She
And what
called the
happened?
police, telling them that he had came in the house without permission, but the police didn't show up.
They never showed up?
Well, she didn't want them to come over.
Why?
The calls can take an hour to 2 or 3 hours, and I didn't want to waste their time. He was already gone. I felt safe in the house, and I knew that I could just call back if he came back.
Now, what was the date that this happened?
January 14th, around there.
Why is this picture dated February 9th?
Because that's when I printed the picture, and my digital camera, once I changed the batteries, the date doesn't set. So I have a digital camera. I have the camera with me. I didn't print
Did you
the
seek
photos.
any medical treatment?
No, ma'am.
Okay. You owe her $1,960. Do you understand? And you can go pick up your stuff within 5 days, the stuff that's on this list. Don't go back and bother her anymore. She doesn't want to have anything to do with you anymore. Do you understand?
It's mutual.
It's finished. Over. Got it?
Mutual.
Thank you. That's all.
Rachel Maffitt is suing her ex-boyfriend, Brad Simmons, for unpaid rent and bills while they lived together. Brad claims he owes her nothing.
Ah, Bird, I really am So glad I don't use this internet thing. Miss Maffitt, you met the defendant on something called MySpace.
Yes.
Which is on the internet where people go to meet each other rather than, meeting each other for a cup of coffee or whatever. You exchange information. And you knew him for a brief period of time, and he moved in.
Yes, he asked to move in.
And it is your claim that while he was there, he paid no rent and bills. He owes you $2,000 for the time that he lived with you. Mr. Simmons says that there was never a financial agreement when he moved in. It was only when he left, unceremoniously, according to Miss Maffitt. You left her a note?
No, ma'am.
What did you do?
I packed up all my stuff while she was gone because of the fact that she was a little unstable. I didn't feel comfortable staying there. I packed all my stuff, so I headed out of there, and then I went back to the house and waited for her to come home. And then I told her face to face.
Oh, okay. Well, not as bad as I thought.
Your Honor, I do have a note.
You do have a note?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see the note. When did you get the note?
When I came home and found all of his stuff gone from the house.
The note was only...
Okay. So you write this letter because you believed she was involved with a couple of other people at the same time she was involved with you. It's a very hurt letter, and you say, I can't talk to you right now. You want to communicate with me through MySpace because you're too hurt. You couldn't trust her. Okay, got it. When did you move in, Mr. Simmons?
It was sometime before Christmas. I don't know the exact date.
You remember the date?
I do not. It was probably after 3 or 4 dates, though.
Sometime in mid-December.
Yes, ma'am.
Of '06. And you moved in at her invitation?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you move out?
I moved out, it was the first week of February.
So let's say
It was before Valentine's Day.
Remember when he moved out?
It was before Valentine's Day, but he was over at my house probably 5 days a week after that. He promised that we would get back together, and
so he lived
still
with you
loved me.
maybe 6 weeks.
Right.
That is untrue. I did not go after.
Did anybody live with you before, Miss Maffitt?
Not in that apartment, no.
Has anybody lived with you since?
No.
So you weren't looking for somebody to share the bills with?
No, I was not.
So what money do you think he owes you? For the 6 weeks that he was there?
He lived there for probably 8 weeks, and
6 weeks. Keep going.
And he did say that he would pay for half of the bills. He actually asked me if he could live with me. He says that he thinks it may be the L word, and so that he wanted to come live with me because his family was unstable, and he said that his father was beating him.
That is untrue, Your Honor.
Listen to me. He left. You have no downside.
Well, I paid for all of the food. He eats probably enough for 3 people a day.
Yeah.
And he did promise me to pay $2,000 from a bonus that he was going to be getting from his new job. And every time I would go to pay bills, he would say, oh, no, it's okay, you're going to get that other money, so we can do this instead and have fun and eat out and things like that. So I did spend money on things that I normally wouldn't have if I were living alone. I work 2 jobs, and I am trying to finish school, so I'm just barely eking by.
Mr. Simmons says he was there.
He gave me $300 when he first moved in, which we promptly used on food and going out to eat.
Was it 3 or 5?
It was $500. I gave her $300 when I moved in, like she said, and then at another point, about 2 days before we broke up, we went out to eat with my uncle at Johnny's Pizza, and I gave her another $200.
Do you feel, Mr. Simmons, as if you owe her any money?
No, ma'am.
Was there ever an agreement for you to pay rent there?
No, ma'am. When I moved out, I figured the $500 I gave her, plus I maintained the upkeep of the house, and I cooked. So I feel that's...
You don't get credit for that.
I feel that the money that I gave her at the time that I was there was
You gave her $500?
Yes, ma'am.
What's your rent, by the way?
My rent is $580 a month.
He's paid you enough, Miss Maffitt.
Miss Judge Judy, I actually have an email here stating that he was going to give me the $2,000.
Oh, then I'll see it.
I never sent an email. She did have access to my email password.
No, I did not.
Just a
because it
second.
was saved on her computer.
Just a second.
Judge, I also have emails saying that he would lie in court, that he admitted to lying in court. He admitted to cheating on me with men.
That's untrue, Your Honor.
Oh, listen, I'm not
that he wasn't working when he was working.
That has nothing to do with me. Absolutely nothing to do with me. The only thing that has to do with me is whether or not you just refuse to put a period and say, made a mistake, shouldn't have invited this guy in to live with me after knowing him for just 4 dates. You have no downside. He gave you $500. He was there for 6 weeks, and I'm not sure that you wrote this thing yourself. Case is dismissed, Miss Maffitt. Put a period. It's over. Goodbye.
Mitchell Ergensen says pizza parlor owner Stephen Lindner owes for vandalism to his truck. Mitchell claims Stephen's employees doused it with salad dressing.
Mr. Urgenson, it is your claim that Mr. Lindner's employees vandalized your house and your car. And Mr. Lindner says he wasn't there. As far as he's concerned, there is no proof that his employees did anything to your house and your car. Who do you live with, sir?
Myself and my 2 daughters.
How old are your daughters?
17 and 19.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm an electrical contractor.
And you have a restaurant?
Yes.
Sometime in July, according to what I read, you ordered some food from Mr. Lindner's establishment. Have you ordered from him before?
Many a times.
What did you order?
Anapasta salad and a turkey sandwich.
And did they deliver it?
Yes.
Remember what date that was?
The 22nd is the date of this, yes.
No, the
The
date of
22nd
the
is
first
when-
order.
Well, what happened
For a
was
sandwich and a salad.
we ordered a couple times and asked for extra Italian dressing prior
When
to
did you?
that.
Well, I understand
Okay.
that, sir. I read the complaint. I read your complaint very carefully. Sometime before this incident, you had ordered a sandwich and a salad.
Which was 2
With
weeks
as-
before.
That's what I want to know.
Thank you.
2 weeks before this incident. And you had ordered a sandwich and a salad with extra dressing for the salad. What kind of extra dressing did you want?
Italian dressing. A couple extra cups.
And had you ordered that before?
Yeah.
And had they always accommodated you before?
Yes.
Who was the salad and the sandwich for?
Me and my daughter. Actually, my oldest daughter.
Who was eating the salad? Who was eating the sandwich? Who were you sharing?
Share it.
And your order came, and they didn't send the extra dressing.
They didn't send any dressing.
So you called back the restaurant. And what did you say to them?
I asked them, they didn't bring me any dressing. I talked to one of their guys in there. He said, we're very sorry. We'll be out in 10 minutes. And I said, please do, because I don't want to wait another 40 minutes for like I had to wait for my order. I want the salad dressing right away. No problem, sir. We'll be right out there. Waited about 40 minutes, almost an hour. Nobody showed up at my door. I called and I said, can I talk to the manager? And he says, I am the manager. I said, well, I've been waiting for my dressing now an hour. They didn't bring me any. Well, I didn't know. He said, I didn't know anything about it. We have no drivers anymore. They all went home. And I got angry with him. And I said, well, I want a credit on my food then. And he said he wasn't going to give me full credit. And I said, I would like full credit for $12. I couldn't eat anything.
You couldn't eat the sandwich?
Not by that time, because we normally put the salad dressing on the sandwich, too. That's why we order extra for the salad and the sandwich. The girls like it. They like the extra vinegar and stuff. So we got mad. The manager hung up on me. I tried to call back. Nobody answered. Nobody answered. So I let it go. And about 2 weeks later, I ordered the same meal. And when the driver got there, I said, we have a credit, and I shut the door.
Very grown up of you.
Yeah.
You think that was right?
Come see, come saw.
What does come see, come saw?
Well, I had a credit.
Do you think,
I mean, the guy agreed he was going to give me half the
no.
credit.
Listen to me, sir.
Okay.
You said you wanted a credit.
No, the manager also told me he was going to give me a credit on the salad, but not the sandwich.
That's right. That's what you just told me. He said,
Right.
well, we will certainly, sir, give you a credit on the salad, because if you run the kind of house where you don't have any dressing at all in your house for 3 adults, if you can't eat the salad, we're sorry about that, but we're not going to give you credit on the sandwich. You decided you wanted a credit on both. So when you took your food and slammed the door in the driver's face, which is what you just told me that you did, that was the wrong thing to do.
Okay.
There were a lot of other things that you could have done other than stiff the driver. Because
Well, it wasn't the driver. It was the pizza.
No, it's the driver. Because they're giving them the food, and when they come back and he says, listen, we went to somebody's house and they wouldn't give us any money, either one of two things happen. Either they say, well, we're taking it out of your money, or they call you. Did they call you?
No.
So you don't know whether the driver got stiffed with your $12 meal. Anyway, Mr. Ergenson, it was very immature of you. And what I'm surprised about is, evidently you are a single father raising 2 children. It would seem to me that you would have enough to occupy your plate other than engaging yourself in these petty little situations that cause nothing but problems for people. Are you telling me that your girls are so perfect that you have nothing else to worry about? Or maybe they're not so perfect that you got plenty to worry about, that you were taking it out on some stranger.
No, my girls are plenty perfect. They're very
They're
good
plenty
girls.
perfect. Well, then there's something wrong with you.
Okay.
All right. Now,
For a single father that runs a business for 20 years and raises 2 girls since they've been 2 and 4, I think I'm pretty good.
well, then I want to tell you something. If your girls are perfect and you run a nice business and you don't have enough to do with your time, I'd start volunteering a little bit more, because this business is ridiculous, petty baloney. So now what you're complaining about is that the next day,
No.
2 days later,
No.
that night,
That night, I had 4 guys come to my house and try to strong-arm me for $12 at my door and threaten to ask me to come outside so we can take care of outside.
okay.
And I
so
shut
you
the
had,
door in their face.
So this little escapade of yours, then 4 people came back to your house
To threaten me
and
from
wanted
this
the
place.
just a second, and said they wanted the $12.
Yeah.
And again, you slammed the door in their
No,
face.
I told them I have a credit. I said, where's the manager? The guy, this one over here, says, I am the manager. And I said, you're the manager from the place? Well, great. Do you remember this? He says, no. And the other guy that's not here today says, oh, you were the one that complained about the salad dressing. I said, so you know about it. You know what happened 2 weeks ago. He said, yes. And I said, okay, then you have a credit with me. If you have a problem, tell the owner to call me. We'll deal with it in court. If you want to sue me for 12, sue me for 12. So that's how it happened.
Volunteer.
They threatened me in my house.
Volunteer. It was a stupid thing to do. Should have written it off. You understand?
Yes.
You're dealing with somebody who's got a little too much time on his hands and a little bit too much aggression in his gut. First of all, Mr. Erkinson, when you order a salad with dressing and a sandwich, the sandwich dressing. So what you're doing is saying, when I asked you, well, why couldn't you eat the sandwich? You say, we'd like to put the dressing on the sandwich. You're not entitled to that. You're not entitled to that.
But
the sandwich comes along.
Yeah.
The dressing comes with a salad. You want dressing for your sandwich, go to the store and buy a bottle of dressing so you have dressing for the sandwich.
But it's not the same dressing. Their salad dressing has their own taste and their own life. It's like when you go to different restaurants. When you go into different restaurants, do you like different salad dressings that different restaurants serve you?
Mr. Erkinson, listen
That's
to me
what
very
happens.
carefully, sir.
Okay.
Then you don't say, send me extra dressing for the sandwich that I'm not entitled to. You say, I'm prepared to pay you extra to send me extra dressing because I like dressing on my
If they
sandwich.
said it cost extra, I would have been happy to pay for it.
Did you? Just a second.
Happy to pay for it.
You were getting something for nothing. You wanted something for nothing. You're
No,
not
I did
entitled
not.
to that.
No, I did not.
Mr. Erkinson, you're a big baby.
Okay.
That doesn't
Thank
mean
you.
you're a big baby.
Thank you.
That doesn't mean your people were entitled to vandalize his house. Now, Mr. Erkinson, I will take a look at the photographs of your house
And my car.
and your car.
And I have the cups that they used.
I don't care about the
All
cups that
right,
they
and I have a
used.
new cup too. It shows in the pictures. And I also have repairs that you might want to see.
Let me see the bills. Mr. Lindner, the way to respond to someone who is behaving in an immature way is not to stoop to their level. There isn't a question in my mind, after examining these photographs, that this vandalism to the plaintiff's house was done by someone in your employ or in the employ of the restaurant. No question. You get me?
Yes, ma'am.
Ah. Now, I don't know whether you went home. I don't know whether they said, listen, he deserves it. What he did was he was acting like a baby, acting like a big baby. But you don't take the law into your own hands and commit a crime.
Absolutely not.
You want to file a police report and say he stole food from me? That's your prerogative. He did. It would be no different from him coming into a restaurant, having a meal, and getting up and leaving, and saying, well, the last time I was here, I didn't have a good meal, and I wanted a credit, and they wouldn't give me a credit. So this time, I'm enjoying my meal, but I'm not paying for it. No different. What he did was he stole from you. And for that, oh, yes, you did, sir. There is no difference from what you did than if you walked into their restaurant or walked into a, I'm speaking, no difference than if you went into a restaurant, ate, didn't like the meal, they wouldn't give you a credit. And a week later, go back to the same restaurant, order the same meal, and get up and leave. And if the police came, they would have arrested you for theft of services, because that's what it is. They still had no right to vandalize your house. Do you understand? Yes. You don't resort to that sort of behavior because he acted like a jerk.
And came to my house and threatened me in my house.
No, ma'am.
And my daughter will attest to all that, too.
Listen, I don't want to get your daughter involved. It's bad enough she had
Well,
to
she
be
was
involved. It's
frightened
bad
every
enough
night.
she had to be involved with it
She was
because of
frightened
your
the whole night
stupidity.
from these guys doing this.
No, listen
Yeah,
to me.
she was.
Listen to me. She was up a whole night and frightened because her father acted like a jerk.
Okay.
That's why she was up all night, because her father acted like a big baby. Cost you $229.23. Is that right?
And lost wages in my work.
Well, that's too bad. Counted lost wages in acting like a jerk. They're not allowed to vandalize your property. Cost you $229. I hope it felt good. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
$229.23 less 12. 217.23. Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
26-year-old Vanessa Gravenstein and 25-year-old Karina Irwin are suing their former friend, Brian Lewis, for embezzling money from an art collective.
Ms. Gravenstein, according to the complaint that I've read, you and the co-plaintiff met the defendant. You were interested in starting something called an art collective. And I assume what that means is a place where young people can show off their art. Is that right?
And also produce their art and be inspired by each other.
And what you did was you and the co-plaintiff were involved in setting up events to raise money to create this art collective. And the two of you worked together along with Mr. Lewis. You raised over $4,700 at these various events, something that Mr. Lewis does not deny. And you put it in the bank. And Mr. Lewis took the money and spent it. Mr. Lewis's defense is that it was always intended to be his money. That's your defense.
Essentially.
Well, Mr. Lewis, I want you to explain that to me, sir.
9 months ago, I was starting a venue to have
Starting a
venue space for concerts, art showings, and so forth. And over the course of about 9 months, I looked for a location to house that.
I thought you said 9 months ago you had a venue space.
No, 9 months ago we did not.
9 months ago, then you had nothing. You had an idea.
We had an idea.
Keep going.
And over those 9 months, I started a business called...
What was the business?
The business name was Is Village, and it was filed by the Secretary of the State of Oregon.
So now you had an idea that you gave a name to, and you filed a registration of the name. So far you have an idea and a name, and nothing else. Keep going.
I basically looked for individuals to help me create this venue space that was supposed to be owned by myself, and met with friends and other individuals, and they aided me in organizing different events.
Who aided you?
These two individuals and a rotating group of individuals that came in, came out.
Keep going.
We held events, generated money, and because the business belonged to me, it was put in my personal bank account and was my personal
Why was it put
property.
in your personal bank account?
Because the business was mine, I started the group, the money was essentially mine from the get-go.
No, that's not true. You're an embezzler. Absolutely. You brought a group of people together in order to create a dream that you inspired others to act upon. In order to do this Is Village. That's why they went to work for you, and that's why, according to you, the other people who you spoke to became involved in creating the events that brought in money, which would ultimately provide you with a venue. Now, what did you spend the money on, Mr. Lewis?
When I was no longer satisfied with the direction of the business that I started, I followed up on interests, business interests, friends of mine, a limousine.
So you spent the money on yourself?
I wouldn't say that, but...
Well, I would. They weren't investing in a limousine. That's not why they worked to create this, so that you could invest in a limousine? Outrageous. You're outrageous. I'm surprised you didn't notify the police. Did you?
We notified you instead.
Well, his conduct is outrageous, and you should have notified the police. He's an embezzler. And I wouldn't go into a business with you, Mr. Lewis. What you did is outrageous. The only problem is you're not entitled to this money. I mean, my problem is people supported you and gave money and contributed because they were looking forward to some place where they could show their wares. If I gave you this money and you used it on yourself, you're no better than he is.
Exactly. So we feel like we've learned from this situation, and we're going to get a new business and a new business name.
I want to see how much money you collected and how much you put in his bank. Do you have the records?
Yeah.
I'd like to see it, please. Ever been arrested, Mr. Lewis?
No, ma'am.
How old are you?
21.
Better go back to business school.
Definitely considering it.
I want to see where the money went in.
The deposits are highlighted and circled, and then we wrote next to it which benefits that money came from.
Oh, that's fine. As soon as you get me the bank records. Not these. The bank records. Do you understand? You mean you can't get them because they're in his name? I will sign an order for the bank to turn those over to you, unless he does. You prepared to turn those over?
More than happy to do it.
Fine. As soon as we get those, and you have a venue with a signed lease, the check will be made payable to that venue. Do you understand? That comports with the reason that not only you, but other people became involved in this vision. Is that reasonable?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Grow up, sir. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in jail. That's all.
24-year-old Tanya Rendon is suing her ex-roommate, 23-year-old Crystal Zepeda, for 2 months' rent and utility bills. Tanya says Crystal was a disrespect.
And then Miss Zepeda was your roommate. According to you, she owes you a couple of months' rent and some utility bills. Miss Zepeda says you told her to leave the apartment. She owes you nothing. Who signed the lease to the apartment?
I did.
So it was just in your name?
No, it's both of our names, but she never stopped by the office to sign it.
Listen to me, Miss Rendon. If she didn't sign the lease was in your name.
It was printed with both of our names, but she...
Show me the lease. I mean, are you not following what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I thought this was going to be easy.
What happened was that
I don't care what happened. This is a contract.
Yeah.
This is the only contract that exists with the landlord. Who signed it?
I did.
Period. We're going to start again. And I'm going to try to come down. You moved into the apartment. The lease is in your name only. Is that correct?
Yes.
But you moved in together.
Yes.
And according to you, you had an arrangement with her that you would split all the rent and all the utilities on this apartment. Lease is from September 1st, 06 to February 28th, 07. When did you move out?
I moved out January 31st.
Now, according to what I read, you paid January's rent, and then you went and withdrew money from the bank so that the check bounced.
Right.
Now, you try to explain to me why you do not owe January's rent if you lived there, according to you, until January 31st.
Because I wasn't really staying there.
I don't give a rat's behind whether you were really staying there or not. Your things were there.
Right.
So you owe January's rent.
Yes.
I would like to say something, Your Honor. She agreed to stay there till March 1st.
Why don't you be quiet?
Okay.
How much was your half of the rent?
$590.
Put your hand down. So far you owe her $590 for the month of January because you can't give her a bad check for January. Do you understand?
Yes.
Did you pay the utilities in January?
No, I did not.
How much are the utilities in January? January only.
January, they're $90 a month.
So far, that's $680. Now, according to you, she also owes for February. Now you can tell me why she owes for February when she moved out January 31st.
When she first moved in, the agreement was that she was going to pay $590 a month until March 1st. It was a 6-month lease. Throughout that time, she kept paying her rent late. She also was very disrespectful to the point that she had people have sex in our apartment with me there.
Wow. You want to tell me about February? Because so far you haven't told me about February.
I couldn't find a roommate. Obviously, I had to come up with the money to cover for February because she just pretty much left. She didn't even bother cleaning the room.
She says that you told her to leave. Is that right?
2 weeks before the end of January, she told me that she had found a new roommate that would be moving in in the beginning of February.
Who that was?
She told me a girl that she found on Craigslist would be moving into the apartment.
So you decided to terminate this roommate relationship
Yes.
well prior to January 31st.
Yes.
Because you had discussed moving out.
Right.
You say it was her fault, she says. It's your fault. It was clear from reading the complaint and answer that the two of you did not have compatible lifestyles.
Right.
All right. Go ahead.
So in January, at the middle of January, I decided, I guess I don't have a choice. She notified me that I would have to be leaving the apartment because she found a new roommate, and so I decided, okay.
Where did you find this new roommate?
She was a friend of my ex-roommate, one of my ex-roommates.
And when did she move in?
She moved in March 1st.
So you had to cover the rent yourself in February,
Yes,
right?
I did.
That's too bad. She owes you $680 for January. Anything else?
No.
Anything else?
The bills, I mean, she didn't pay for the bills for dinner.
$680. Get over it. That's all.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các bạn quay lại channel của mình. Hôm nay mình sẽ cho mọi người góp một chiếc hộp màu đen có đính bông hoa 5 bông hoa cánh màu đen. Gốc nó tô màu màu đen, dụng cụ là thước, kéo, màu bút lông, chì và củ dán. Giờ mình sẽ bắt tay vào làm này. Để làm nó đều là 9 cm. gấp nó vào. Cái này là 9 cm. Cái phần dư đi này. Bên nào đẹp hơn. Này bằng nhau. Bắt đầu vẽ nào này, vẽ bông hoa này này. Bravo. Bốn bông, xong rồi dùng kéo cắt một phần dư rồi đi. Cái bánh này xong 4 bông hoa thì mình làm như nó là màu xanh dương và xanh lá. Không vết nó này. Như vậy mình đã hoàn thành xong một chiếc hộp màu hình vuông có màu đen đính các 4 bông hoa màu đen, nhưng mà đính ở giữa là những cái nhụy màu sắc. Thì các bạn phải hay cho một like, share vào cái kênh nhé. Hẹn gặp lại các bạn chị lần sau. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại.